Good morning. Welcome back to the Planet Doug podcast, aka the Planet Doug Video Journal. And of course, here we are in Planet Doug Studios, aka my hotel room, enjoying my first cup of coffee of the morning. See, I'm so not awake yet, I can't even speak. Yeah, it's just after 8 o'clock in the morning. And to be honest, a better use of my time would probably be editing a real video, because I went out for a bit of an adventure here in Kuala Lumpur yesterday, and my main task for today is to edit that video. But I also enjoy kind of telling the story of things that I do, kind of a behind the scenes version of my experience from yesterday. I also have some technology things to talk about. I'll save that for later. Yeah, I'm sure I have a list of things to talk about, and we'll see how it all falls into place. But I'm going to start with my small adventure from yesterday. I went for a hike to a place called Bukit Dinding, and this is basically a hill. A rocky hill with very steep sides, right smack in the middle of the city. So there's basically giant apartment towers on all sides of this thing. If you look at it on Google Maps satellite view, it's quite stunning to see it, because it's just like nothing but urban development, and then right in the middle of all these super skyscrapers and residential neighborhoods, boom, you've got this jungle, just a single speck of jungle. It's about 300 acres total size, I'm told, and then it just rises up out of the city and it's totally covered in jungle. And then one of the things I learned about it before I went there is that the jungle is not actually I still can't think of the word. I couldn't think of the word yesterday when you're talking about original forest that's been there for centuries or thousands of years. There's a name for that kind of forest. Anyway, this is not that. It's actually secondary growth. So the original rainforest was pretty much cut down because that whole area, that whole region, has a history of tin mining and rubber plantations. And during that time, a lot of, or maybe all of the rainforest was cut down, and everything you see there now, the trees and the vines and even the animals and the insects and the birds, everything that's living there that's part of what looks like pristine, untouched rainforest is actually all brand new within the last century. It's secondary growth, and I found that kind of interesting. Yeah, all the land around Bukit Dinding, which is the name of the hill. Bukit in Malay means hill, so Bukit Dinding. I don't know where the name Dinding comes from. I end up saying it all the time because it's such a funny word in English. Bukit Dinding, ding ding, ding ding, and but yeah, you've got the hill there, Bukit Dinding. And then all around it is nothing but urban life. Massive apartment buildings. They're just huge ones, and more going up all the time. And then even some of the older traditional housing districts, single homes, all in rows, the traditional style that I see here in Malaysia. So it's all residential areas. But 100 years ago, that was all rubber plantations. That whole area was owned by a few really large estates. Tin mining and mainly rubber plantations. And then the government kind of bought up all of the plantations and rezoned it for a residential area, sold the land to developers, and then you see what's there now, the massive towers. And it's relatively close to the Sri Rampai LRT station, not super close. I was wondering about all those giant apartment buildings. I guess the main cluster of them is right near the Sri Rampai LRT station, so that works out quite well. For the people that live there, they can live on the outskirts of KL. Probably the rent is cheaper. They have access to Bukit Dinding, though I considering how tough the trails are, I don't know how many people take advantage of it. It's not a stroll in the park, take your family to the lake on the weekends and feed the ducks kind of scene. This is ropes and mud and heat and sweat and working hard. This is a place where you go. I met people there who are preparing for Kota Kinabalu. They're going to climb the highest mountain that's over there in Borneo, Kota Kinabalu. And to train for that climb, they go to mini Bukit Dinding, and then they climb that up and down, or they go around it. And they're basically in training for Kota Kinabalu, because Bukit Dinding is 291 meters high. I don't know what the full climb is, because you'd have to start from, it's 291 meters above sea level, but I don't know what the land around Bukit Dinding is, what the altitude is there. So if you start at the base of the hill, climb to the top, you're at 291 meters at the top, but you haven't climbed 291 meters. You've only climbed the distance from the land to the top. Though in fact, if you take the trails that most people do, the trail that I took, you're climbing more than that. I think, like, I was running a Relive app. You can see that on the Planet Doug Patreon. I post these Relive 3D map summaries of the things that I do. And I think it gave me an altitude climb of over 500 meters, because the trail that I picked out, I think all the trails there, you basically climb up and then you kind of have to go around the hill. And then when you run into another little river, that means you go down, 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 down. You lose so much of the altitude you'd gained, and then you cross the little stream, and then you go back up again, and then you follow the mountain around, and then you go down, 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 cross the stream, back up again. And then finally you get all the way around the hill, and then you start climbing up to the top. So my total altitude gain for the day was more in the neighborhood of 500 or 600 meters, something like that. And a funny thing is that I went to Tai Pusam this month on, I guess it was February 11th. I can't believe it was already so long ago. It feels like it just happened. That's sort of a problem with being a YouTuber, because an experience gets spread out over a long period of time. Because I was researching Tai Pusam before it happened, going to the Silver Chariot procession, which is a lead up to the main Tai Pusam, and then going to Tai Pusam, but then takes, I don't know, 5 days, a week to sort through the video and edit and upload the video. So you end up living a one-day experience over a 2-week period of time. So a lot of time ends up going by. It feels really weird. You feel like you're on an accelerated time scale as a YouTuber. At least I do. Anyway, after I had my Tai Pusam experience, I was puttering around my hotel and my neighborhood like a 90-year-old man with arthritis, because my legs were so stiff, the muscles of my legs. And it wasn't from climbing the short hill at Batu Caves. It was just from all of the standing. It was like 14 hours of standing when I was shooting the video, and then walking and waiting and walking and waiting, standing. And my legs really suffered afterwards. So when I went for the hike yesterday, I wondered how my legs were going to do. And I woke up this morning feeling my legs are okay. I mean, at the end of the hike yesterday, I was done. I mean, I was exhausted. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, for me, it was a hard day. The climb that I did yesterday really did me in. I had nothing left in the gas tank by the end of it. And all I did was climb up 291 meters. That was the peak that I reached. And I probably walked, I had to walk from the LRT station to the park and back again. That's probably 3 or 4 kilometers. And then the hiking that I did. So it was a bit of a workout for anybody. But man, I was so tired by the end of it. I had nothing left in my legs. So I thought I'd wake up this morning and my legs would be just like after Tai Pusam. I thought I'd have trouble getting out of bed. But my legs, I can feel them. They're sore, but they feel healthy They feel sore in a healthy way. They just feel like legs that had a good workout. So yeah, I'm pleased about that. What's actually really sore this morning are my arms. Because at Taipusam, I was not one of the kavadi bearers, so I was not using my arms, so my arms did not get a workout at Taipusam. But on this hiking trail at Bukit Dinding, a lot of the time you're holding onto ropes, and you're either climbing up with the ropes, which I do not recommend, by the way, I'll talk about that. But when I was coming down, I had to hold on to the ropes in order to go down. Otherwise, I just would have been tobogganing through the mud like an insane person, just like whoosh. It was so slippery and muddy with the exposed clay. You couldn't get a grip. I couldn't. I was wearing my sandals, and they're not hiking sandals. They don't have knobby bottoms. They don't grip. They're very, very slippery. It's pretty much like wearing skis on your feet. So when I was trying to come down on those slippery trails, and they were so steep, I had to use the ropes when they were available. And when there were no ropes available, I had to hold on tight to the trees and the vines. Otherwise, I just would have went for a tumble. Without the ropes, I'd still be up there. They'd have to have a rescue helicopter to come get me, or someone would have to bring me proper footwear in order to get down, because without the ropes and those sandals, I never would have made it down. It wouldn't have been possible, because the inclines were so severe, you would have been hurt. You couldn't just butt scoot down the whole way, or maybe you could, but that would be pretty embarrassing. And yeah, you couldn't do it. It's too much. But yeah, you would, if you slid down those hills, you'd end up injuring yourself. So without the ropes, yeah, I'd still be up there this morning. I wouldn't be here enjoying a cup of coffee. But yeah, my arms, I can feel it. I had to really Tarzan my way through this jungle, and my arms are really sore this morning. It's a good feeling, though. It actually feels like I had a bit of a workout. And I'm very pleased that my legs are as in good shape as they are. So it kind of tells me that the problems I had after Taipusam is not because I'm an old man at the end of my life suffering from severe arthritis. It's just because I do a lot of sitting around as a YouTuber editing videos, so I don't get a lot of exercise lately. So the fact that I went to Taipusam, got a good workout, and then a couple of weeks later I do this. So I'm sort of building because of those two events, and I do a lot of walking in my own life. I don't do huge walks here in KL anymore like I used to. But if I'm going somewhere, by the end of the day, I've walked 5 kilometers during the day in and around the neighborhoods of KL going shopping. So I do get exercise. But it feels like being physically fit is not out of the question. If I had a lifestyle where I was getting steady workouts like this hike, my physical fitness would increase. Because yeah, I was going to mention this later on, but I'll mention it now, that at the end of my hike, when I was really suffering and holding onto that rope and going so slowly, right then there was this really funny moment where this group of about 4 people raced by me, and they looked to be my age or older. They were in very good shape. They weren't overweight or anything, you could tell. And you could tell that they do this all the time. They had all the right hiking gear. They knew what they were doing. They'd gone up and down these trails a number of times. So they weren't feeling their way. So they had that advantage over me. But they were in such good physical condition. They were running, whereas I was crawling up and down this trail. They ran up and ran down. Because again, they're there for a purpose. They're there trying to get physically fit, training for something, and they're timing themselves. And the first man I saw, I was on the very last rope, just a few meters from the ground, and then I looked up and I saw this guy just like barreling towards me. He was going so fast, and I thought, yeah, I got to get out of his way because I'm holding the rope, and he wasn't using the rope at the time. But if he needed the rope, he didn't need a doofus like me blocking his way. So I sped up to get down to the bottom so I can get out of his way, because this guy just went barreling past me. And it's like, all right, so that's what a physically fit man looks like compared to me. It's pretty funny. I decided to go to Bukit Dinding almost on a whim. I stumbled across the name of this place, and it interested me personally. I'm not a big hiker. I'm not an outdoorsman. I'm more of an urban kind of guy. I'll hang out at a Starbucks happily, so I'm not always trying to head into the wilderness and get out of the city. I love cities, so I'm not that kind of person, but I can go out for a hike from time to time. I'm into photography and videography, so going into the woods and looking at the mushrooms and the birds and the butterflies and the beetles and the millipedes and taking pictures and things like that, I do enjoy that, so I would do it normally in my normal life. But I also thought that as a YouTuber here in Kuala Lumpur, Bukit Dinding is quite an interesting subject. It's not going to get hundreds of thousands of views, this video, when I finish it, because it's a small park, it's a small thing that almost nobody knows about it. But I thought from that point of view, the fact that nobody knows about it is a reason to make a video about it, sort of a hidden gem of Kuala Lumpur. That was in my mind when I made the plans to go there. I think I just saw it on Google Maps. I do that all the time. I think we all do. You look at Google Maps now and you just zoom in and you're just scrolling around. Oh, look at that. What's that? What's that? What's that? And I saw this hill, a hiking hill. And then I did research into it, and the name was Bukit Dinding. The first thing you do, you type that into Google, and to my amazement, a website popped up, a good, well-designed, updated website. So if you go to bukitdinding.com, you can get all the information about this place. Beautiful maps of all the hiking trails, the history of the place, lots of interesting factoids. So yeah, there was a lot going on at this place that was like, wow. And I started to think, how does nobody know about this place, for one thing? And I thought, okay, well, I should go there. I'll grab my GoPro and go. And I was contrasting it with the eco park, because all the YouTubers who come to Kuala Lumpur, and they all have the title, I was shocked, I was amazed, I wasn't expecting this. All the standard YouTube travel vlogs for Kuala Lumpur, they all go at one point to the eco park. They've seen other YouTubers feature the eco park. Those videos are popular, so they're looking for things to do, and you go to the Petronas Towers, of course, then you're amazed and you can't believe it, you're shocked, and then you go to Kuala Lumpur Tower and you're shocked and amazed and you can't believe it, and you go to the Petaling market, the big market in Chinatown. You go to all the normal places, and one of the normal places is the eco park. And that's all you ever see featured, and it's talked about as the last remaining piece of, like, virgin, is that the word I'm looking for? Like virgin jungle, rainforest left in Kuala Lumpur. And they do have the walkways in the eco park, and they have some trails, things like that. And it's right on the same hill, Bukit Nanas, the same hill as the KL Tower. So it's very easy to get to. It's essentially right beside Bukit Bintang. So yeah, you see how Bukit comes up all the time, hill, hill, hill. Bukit Bintang is Bintang Hill. Bukit Nanas, I think that's Pineapple Hill, where the KL Tower and the Eco Park are. There's tons of bukits around, and now we have Bukit Dinding. And I was thinking, rather than featuring the Eco Park, feature a different place, because it's another pocket. It's not virgin rainforest, but it's secondary growth, but it's a place that I thought would be interesting to show to people. Malaysians might not even know about it, and I thought foreign visitors definitely won't know about it, and I thought it would be fun to make a video about it as a suggestion for everyone to go there and go for a hike. However, Now that I've been there and I've had the experience, I do have to say that it's not for everyone. I was thinking of it as a place that everybody could go to, even all the YouTube vloggers that are always shocked and amazed and can't believe everything they're seeing in Kuala Lumpur. I thought for them, I was thinking of even the video title. I probably won't do it, but I think if I was a good YouTuber, I would have a title like, Eco Park, or forget about the Eco Park, go here instead. Like everybody knows the Eco Park, and I'm saying, forget about that dump. This is where you should go. Bukit Dinding, it's the new hotspot. However, after my experience there, no, anybody can go to the Eco Park for a stroll, no matter what your fitness level. Not everybody can do Bukit Dinding. So if you're going to Bukit Dinding, you're in for a hike, you're in for a physical effort. You got to be ready, you've got to be prepared for this. It's not a casual stroll. There is a paved road. I was on the paved road for a couple hundred meters. I spend all my time on a trail, the Kazumi Trail, which I'll talk about, and that was tough. So, I mean, if someone asks me, should I go to Bukit Dinding, I'm looking them up and down. So, you weigh 240 pounds, you're 60 pounds overweight. The only exercise you get is searching for your TV remote. No, you're not going to Bukit Dinding. Trust me. Even someone in relatively good shape may not be in the mood for that kind of climbing. And I'd say, well, it depends what you're looking for. So it's more of a challenging climb for the most part, the trails. And you go there if you want to get a workout, if you're a hiker, and you need a new hiking place to go. You've gone to all the other hiking trails around KL. You need something new. Go to Bukit Dinding, go for a hike. But you're not bringing the little kids there. It's not a place for kids, definitely not. Though, as I was just saying, there are 2 antenna towers, telecommunication towers on the top, and to build those, of course, they had to have a road. So there is a paved road. I think it's 2.5 kilometers long. That starts at a different entrance. I don't know how you get to that entrance. I didn't go there. But you could walk all the way up the road to the towers and then all the way back down again. That'd be a 5-kilometer walk. And it's steep, particularly at the very beginning, I'm told. I didn't go there, but according to the website, they say, you're going to be surprised. So be prepared for that. When you start, it's not walking down the road, it's walking up the road. It gets very steep, and it's even hard to walk up the asphalt. And people use it for training. They run all the way to the top on the road and then run all the way back down again. Whew. But, so you could approach it from that point of view, but even that would be hard, I think. And it wouldn't be that interesting. I don't recommend it. I recommend the trails. But yeah, overall, Bukit Dinding is not for the casual family outing. It's if you want some exercise and you want to do something a bit more challenging. So yeah, my idea that I could make a video for the masses, when I got there, my very first spot, I quickly realized, no, this is not for the masses. This is for, a very small group of people. And I met a whole bunch of people, which was interesting, and I'll talk about that. But there was one couple in particular I wanted to mention right now, because I talked to them at the beginning of the trail, and then I was much slower than everybody else, not because I was slow physically, but because I'm taking video all the time. I'm setting up cameras, and I'm fiddling with my cameras all the time. So I was going very slowly, and then these people went ahead of me. And then almost before I knew it, they were coming back down. And I thought, and I stopped, and I stopped them and asked them, it's like, wow, that's fast. Is it so easy to get to the top? And they says, nah, we gave up. they said it's too steep. So they just got a little way up the trail. They saw the first climb, and then they went, nah, forget, no. And they just turned around and left. So yeah, I can imagine people doing that, just quitting before they get started. So yeah, it's that kind of place. Going back to the beginning, when I did my research, I talk about all this in the video as well, but I don't know how much I'm going to keep in the video, because I was thinking, even before I went there, how to shoot this video. And I think about that all the time. Like a standard Planet Doug video would start when I leave the hotel. I walk out the front door, or I even start inside my hotel room. I turn on the GoPro and I say, well, welcome to Planet Doug. Today we're going to Bukit Dinding. And then I shoot video as I leave my hotel, as I walk to the LRT station, as I ride the LRT. Then I walk from the LRT to the beginning of the trail, and I'm telling the whole story of Bukit Dinding as I'm going to Bukit Dinding. And then I film the experience. That's a normal Planet Doug video, and that's why it ends up being an hour long, even more than an hour. And I was thinking, you really should try to make these 20-minute videos that people can consume more easily. So I think about that from time to time. So my personal solution to that dilemma, in quite a few cases, has been to shoot an extended cut. So I'll put all my video together, and it's an hour or more long, and then I take that and then I try to shorten it to under an hour, and I post that first, hoping that more people can enjoy a shorter video, though they still end up being an hour long. And then I'll post the extended cut later on, just in case anybody wants the full experience while they're doing their housework or whatever. They can have my video playing in the background, and they can look at it from time to time as I'm screaming as I fall down Bukit Dinding, and oh, Doug fell again. Doug goes sliding down the mountain, and they can just listen to me talking or something. So I make a short version and then an extended cut. So yesterday I was thinking, well, if you're going to do that anyway, why not do it deliberately? Because I decided actually to make a short version, and I wasn't going to film on my way there. So I thought, okay, just, don't be insane anymore. Don't be an insane person. Start the video at the trail, like a normal YouTuber. So I thought, okay, I made the decision to do that. And then I thought, okay, that makes my life much easier. I can just relax. I can have a cup of coffee in the morning, just go to the trail while listening to a podcast, and then walk to the trail. And then there I am at the bottom of the trail, then turn on the GoPro. Hey, we're at Bukit Dinding, and here's the trail. And I decided to do that. I was all ready to do that. My camera gear was packed away in my knapsack. I didn't have anything ready. And then, I woke up pretty early in the morning for this experience. I think I set my alarm for 4:30, maybe, because I do like to ease into the day. I do like to sit here and have a cup of coffee in the morning, get prepared, get organized, and sort of ease into the day. And my plan was to get the LRT at 6, because the very first train from the Masjid Jamek leaves at 6 a.m. So I was going to take the 6 a.m. train, get to Sri Rampai at 6:30, walk the half an hour to the trail, and I wanted to be there at 7 o'clock. So I thought like 4:30 would be the time to get up to do that. Because there's been a lot of rain in KL, but the rain has been hitting in the afternoon. There's often a little bit of clear skies in the morning, and I wanted to be there with enough time to climb all the way to the lookout points, and then at the lookout points I'll have blue skies, and then come down, and then as I'm leaving, the rain will hit. So that's why I wanted to be there as early as possible. I wanted to be there like at 7 a.m. at the latest. I think that was the earliest I could get there anyway. Getting the 6 a.m. train would get me there at 7 a.m. So that was the earliest I could possibly get there. So that's what I was going to do. And I was going to start filming at 7 a.m. right when I start the trail. I think as it turned out, it was too dark. I keep misjudging how dark it is here because of the time zone we're in. And at 7 o'clock when I got there, it was actually totally overcast, still raining, The weather was not looking good. Apparently there had been a huge thunderstorm during the night that I slept through, because I don't hear anything like that from here in my hotel room. And it was just too dark. Once I was out on the street and it was too dark. I mean, the GoPro video that I have is just black. I'm aiming it at me walking down the street, and it's just a black screen because it was that dark. And then you go into the rainforest, into the trail, now you've got a jungle canopy over your head. So even if the sun is sort of emerging, it's still going to be dark. So there was no way I could begin the climb. That would be silly. So I got there at 7 a.m., but it was just so dark. I had to wait. I think I didn't start the climb until after 8, even 8:30, because I had to wait a long time for the world to get light enough for me to even start the hike. But anyway, as I said, I was all prepared to begin the video filming at the trail itself. And then I was going to tell the history of the park, all the information about it while I'm hiking. But I couldn't do it. I was sitting here. I just love telling stories. I love talking. I love sharing things. So, like, what am I going to do the entire hour of traveling from here to the park? I want to film it. So even though I had all my cameras packed away, as I was just heading out the door, I stopped and went, come on. And then I came up with this idea of, okay, let's do the extended cut and the short version. So I got out my GoPro and I put on my Rode Wireless Go microphone, and then I started filming as I was walking to the LRT station, normal Planet Doug style. Good morning, it's 6:30 in the morning, or it's 6 o'clock. I think it was 6 a.m. when I did leave because I got delayed. I was hoping to get on the train at 6, but then I decided to actually film, so then I had to stop and get my cameras out. And then, so I think it was like 6 a.m. And I said, hey, welcome to Planet Doug. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm heading to the LRT because we're going to Bukit Dinding. And then I filmed all the way to the trail. And I thought, okay, that will be the beginning of the extended cut. And then in my mind, when I got to the trail, I will do another opening. I'll do a completely brand new opening and repeat some things like, good morning, welcome to Planet Doug. I would say that all over again, tell some of the history of the park when I'm there, and then I can choose which opening to use. But as often happens with plans like this, I forgot. So since I already did, I told all the information and I had an opening to the video from here, when I got to the trail, I was just in the middle of the adventure, so I chatted with some people there, and then I was looking at the trail, figuring the trail map, trying to figure out where I was going to go. And then when it became light enough, I just started hiking, and I just kept the story going from that point, and I never restarted it for the condensed version. So I'm kind of stuck at this point. I don't know what I'm going to do when I edit it. If I edit the video as the full video, it's going to be over an hour long. But if I want to shorten it, I don't know if there's a natural starting point for a short version. I'm not sure. When I'm editing the video, then I'll say, oh, I could jump in here. The only problem is there are two or three things I really wanted to talk about in both the extended cut and the short version. And in the short version, I never mentioned those things. So in order to include those things, I have to start the video here. I think I'm stuck. And the things I wanted to mention were that this Bukit Dinding area is closely tied in with the history of Malaysia and the history of Kuala Lumpur. And you can see that in history. So for example, there was a major battle there it was in 1870 during the Klang War. I think they call it the Selangor Civil War. And it went on, I don't know, for a decade. This was a big war, and there's a major battle there in 1870. So that Bukit Dinding was the site of this battle, part of Malaysian history. And there was a lot of tin mining there, as I already mentioned, which is basically the story of Kuala Lumpur. The history of this city is the history of tin mining. a lot of the whole region from here down to Klang to Port Dickson, all tin mining is what developed this region in the first place. Because, I mean, the main history of Malaysia does not start here. It's more around Malacca, places like that, Malacca and Penang, because those were the seaports. And Kuala Lumpur developed later, and it developed because of tin mining. And there was tin mining around Bukit Dinding. And then rubber plantations are tied in with Malaysia's history. And all that whole area around Bukit Dinding was all rubber plantations. The biggest one being the Hawthornden Estate. You can read about all of this on the website for Bukit Dinding. And then, yeah, there was fighting there during the emergency, the Malaya emergency, the communist insurgency. So that was happening around Bukit Dinding as well, with the rubber plantations and things like that. And then 2 movies were shot there. There was a big Hollywood production called The Seventh Dawn, was based in a rubber plantation near Bukit Dinding. So the story was set there, and it was shot there, as far as I know, starring William Holden. And it's kind of it was based around the emergency, the fighting. And Europeans were involved, and some local people were in the movie as well. And if you watch the trailer for that movie, it's from a 2025 point of view, it's kind of hilarious. The over-the-top narrated trailer from that era. It was shot in 1963, I think. 63 or 64. And back in those days, movie trailers were very different. They were a whole lot like a YouTube video, just kind of funny, because they're trying to sell the movie, and the trailer is like the YouTube video title. So you got to use sensationalism, you've got to use clickbait. You want people to come watch your movie, so you got to make the trailer as exciting as possible. And the trailer for this movie is just hysterical. The narrator, I can't even repeat it. That my brain doesn't work at that level of excitement. But yeah, just type in The Seventh Dawn into YouTube and click on the original trailer. It's just the funniest thing you've ever heard. But anyway, so that movie was shot there. And finally, there was a very famous P. Romley movie, was also set there and shot there. I've actually watched most of this movie already. I went to the P. Romley Museum here in Kuala Lumpur, and they had a theater there, and like a mini theater, and they had this movie. I think it's called Anak Bapak, and it's the story of a rubber plantation owner and some shenanigans that go on his plantation, and the story of his life there. It's a comedy for the most part, I think. But anyway, yeah, Anak Bapak, I think that's what it's called. Shot in 64, I think, 63 or 64. And so that was also part of the history of Bukit Dinding. So everything I just told you, I talked about all of this in the original video, but I want that to be in the original video, but I forgot to say anything about it for the short version. So if I want to include that background, I have to have the full length version of the video. But I haven't edited it yet, so I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. The other interesting angle to making the YouTube video is that I've gotten more and more interested lately in subject-based videos. When I started this YouTube adventure like 5 years ago, whenever it was, I had a completely different idea, because for me, in my mind, it was more of a video journal, because most of my life I've been living, basically, this has been my life. What you see on YouTube is exactly how I normally live. And I would keep a written journal, and I would take pictures, and I've been doing that my whole life. And then I started doing it in the video form. And yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, how the world has changed, or if the world has changed, because in my lifetime, I've gone on a couple of big adventures, not a lot of them. When I talk to people and meet them, they think I must be some sort of a world adventurer who has been to 100 countries. But that's not really true. I've lived overseas most of my life, but I've actually gone to very few places. I tend to go to a place and spend a lot of time in one place. And I haven't had that many big adventures, really. I had possibilities for a lot of big adventures, but I tended to fill my life with a lot of small adventures. But in my lifetime, I rode my bicycle across Canada, almost coast to coast. And that was kind of a big adventure. I've driven a car across Canada, an old broken down piece of junk that had to be repaired a lot. That was kind of a big adventure. And I went backpacking, the typical backpacker trail through Southeast Asia, did the classic Annapurna circuit, trek in Nepal, but I did that again back in the 80s or 90s. And then I went to Ethiopia for nearly a year on a cycling and hiking trip, and that was a big adventure. I went to Guinea in West Africa on a cycling trip. That was back in like 2000, and that was a big adventure. But back when I was doing all of those things, whether I was on a bicycle trip or I went to Cambodia even on a bicycle and rode my bike around Angkor Wat, all of these things at that time, they felt like special adventures, that very few people were doing these sorts of things. And because back then there was no internet, there were no smartphones, no digital photography, no YouTube, no vlogs. All you knew about the world of traveling came from travel books. And they were a very small set of travel books. And I read most of the travel books I could get my hands on, and those were my inspiration for the things that I did. And when I was doing them, I felt special. It felt like very few people in the world were doing these things. So they felt like a valuable story that could be told. And then when I started up my YouTube channel, I was going to continue in the same vein, and my videos were essentially going to be the story of my life overseas, having these small adventures. And I was thinking that, wow, these would be very interesting for people because it's an unusual world. How many people are, like when I started my YouTube channel, when I shot my first videos, I was in Sumatra actually, and I was living in a very, very cheap hotel. It cost like $4 a night. Of course, no private bathroom. The bathroom was way down the hall, and it was just a big cement container with a ladle. That was your shower, and the bathroom was just a hole in the ground. And so I was living a very low budget life, eating all my meals at the little tiny restaurants right across the street or in the market. And I did go to Lake Toba, but I got there on the local bus sort of thing, and I was riding my bike at the time too. I was doing some bike touring there, and it felt like my lifestyle there was a story there worth telling that I didn't even see it on YouTube. Nobody was showing that lifestyle. People on YouTube were showing luxury lifestyles as part of travel. They're staying in condos with swimming pools and beautiful resorts in Bali, and they're going to nice restaurants. Nobody was showing the backpacker lifestyle on YouTube. So that was my idea originally, and I thought it would be an unusual story. But lately it seems to me that everybody is doing this. That on YouTube, for example, I open up YouTube now and my feed is filled with probably hundreds of people making simple little travel videos like mine. And I started to think, wow, it's not so special anymore. And why is that? I think it might be because of the internet. Like when I went to Ethiopia on my bike tour, it was difficult. There was no information. There was no Google Maps, and life was tough, and the roads weren't paved, and I don't mean it was a really tough, hard thing to do. That's why not many people were doing it. But now, and it was relatively expensive, airfares and things like that. But now airfares are far cheaper. Hotels have just gotten really, really nice. Everywhere you go in the world, there's really nice, comfortable hotels now. It wasn't like that in the what I call the old days. And there's so much information. Google Maps, internet, booking everything on your phone. All you need to go around the world is this thing. You just fire this up and, oh, I'm going to book a flight. Okay, I got my flight booked. Oh, I need a visa. Oh, got my visa. Oh, got to book a hotel room. Oh, I want Grab to pick me up at the airport. Okay, I'll book that. I mean, come on. The world is so different. The old days, you flew into a country and you didn't know how you were going to do anything. You didn't have anything booked, and then you walk out of the airport, it's just total chaos, and there's the local bus with the goats and the chickens and the ducks on the roof, and you pile in with all the local people, and there you are, and you don't know where the bus is going, you don't know how to pay for the bus, and then you get dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and then you got to walk around the streets with your backpack looking for a hotel where you can stay, and you can't communicate with anybody. So back in those days, yeah, it was a lot harder to do. But so is that why so many more people are doing it now? It's cheaper, far more comfortable, and it's so much easier to do. So if maybe that's why thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people are doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing, and a good percentage of them are recording their experiences on video. So then, yeah, long tangent here to get around to this idea that I've started thinking maybe more of a subject-based approach. I can keep my video journal here behind the scenes as a podcast. I can feed my desire for that by doing this. And when it comes to making a video, perhaps I can aim my camera more outward instead of at me. And that's kind of what I did at Thaipusam when I went there. The video was about my experience of Thaipusam, but because I knew some people, I had a personal connection, I could turn the camera around. And instead of me telling you about Thaipusam, I aimed my camera at other people, at these Malaysian participants in Thaipusam, and asked them, what is Thaipusam all about? And they told me, and then through the camera, they told you, okay, this is the story of Thaipusam, and this is what this tradition means, and this is why we do this, and this is what it means to me. So it became more their story than my story. And I liked that feeling. And then when I went to Bukit Dinding, and it was still dark when I got there, and all these people kept arriving, Malaysians who were there to go hiking. So to be honest, I thought the whole park would be empty, and I thought I would prefer it to be empty. But I counted at one point, and there were 25 people all standing on the sidewalks and on the street and in their cars, waiting for it to get light enough so they could begin their hike. And there are all these hiking groups, friends who plan to get together to do the hike. And they would gather around their car, and they're waiting for another member of their friend group or their hiking club. And there are all these people there, and I managed to talk to, I had this feeling I wanted to talk to all of them, but again, I don't like bothering people. I don't like putting cameras in their faces. It takes an effort for me to get over that hesitancy. But I was there long enough that I gathered up my courage, and I did speak to one man who I had a long conversation with him, and I was holding my GoPro, and then I asked him, like, would you mind? I'm shooting a YouTube video. Here's the name card for my YouTube channel, and I'm going to make like a tourism video about Bukit Dinding. Can I ask you some questions about the park, and would you mind being part of my video? And then he said no. He was very shy. He said he really doesn't want to be on camera. So I said, oh, that's fine, that's okay. And then another member of his group showed up, a woman, and then he said to me, why don't you maybe she would be willing to do it. She's better. He kept saying she'll be so much better on camera than me. And then with his encouragement, I spoke to her and said, hey, told her, YouTube channel, Planet Doug. Here's my card. Would you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? And she was perfectly happy to do it. So at first I held my GoPro out at arm's length to sort of get the two of us. And dummy that I am, I planned this in advance, and then I was going to take my second Rode Wireless Go microphone and clip it onto the people that I talked to. And then I rummaged in my bag. I forgot to bring it. After all that preparation, I had my Rode Wireless Go, but the second one was still sitting here on my shelf in my microphone bag. For some reason, I forgot to pack my microphone bag, so I didn't have it with me. So anyway, I'm trying to get closer and closer to this person that I'm interviewing, because this is the microphone recording my voice and hers, and I didn't want to be 10 feet away from her. So anyway, I'm trying to get close, and I'm holding the camera out here. And then I held the camera beside me, and I've noticed that I have a tendency when I do that to aim the camera too high. They end up being too low in the frame, so I'm gonna have to learn to. That's one of the difficulties of being a YouTuber. If you're doing the video and the audio, you're in charge of audio, and if you screw up, you screw up. And I did screw up because I forgot the microphone. If I had an audio department, they would have taken care of it. And then for video as well, I'm speaking with the woman, so I'm making eye contact with her. I'm basically just having a conversation. So it's not like I'm looking at my camera, aiming it at her. I'm holding the camera over here and maintaining eye contact. And then of course, I don't know, I'm just guessing where the camera is aiming. So that's another problem, but I think I was aiming it too high again. I got to learn to sort of get it down. Because I think we have a tendency, all of us do, is when you have a camera and you're taking a picture of somebody, you tend to aim it straight at them, and then their head ends up being dead center. And for a camera, like for a picture, that's the absolute worst position. Like for a nice portrait photograph, you don't do that. If you know anything about photography, you aim your camera at the person. Well, then you look at the picture, it's like, oh, that's boring. And then you just sort of move it and put their face on the side. The rule of 2/3, right? You take your picture and divide it up into 3, and then either up or left or right. And then the rule of thirds, you put the person off to the left a little bit, and it makes a much more pleasing image. Same thing with video. If you just sort of aim the camera at a person straight on, they're dead center, and it's not very pleasing. So you kind of want to tilt it down a little bit so that they're sort of placed more naturally in the frame. Anyway, I did not do that. So I'm a little bit worried that I was like aiming the camera up at the sky. I'm talking to this woman, and it's like, no, Doug, aim it this way. And I'm probably aiming it too high like this or something. Anyway, so I did do that. I spoke to her, and I thought about it beforehand that I wanted to do this, and I was glad that I did interview her. And then when I was on the trail, I ran into another man who, he knew me, actually. This guy, he was one of these guys that does the trail all the time. And he didn't look like he was in great shape, but man, he was in good shape. He just powered over these trails. He wasn't breathing hard, he wasn't sweating, and I just saw him all over the place because I'm going up this one trail slowly, and he's like zooming all around in circles. Okay, I just did that trail, and he comes back to me, and then he does another trail, he comes back, and I'm like, man, are you the Flash? How are you doing this? But anyway, he recognized me when I first met him. He says, hey, Doug. And he knew me from my YouTube channel. So that was a natural way to start talking with him. And he seemed to be a very interesting man, very outspoken, very energetic. So I thought, man, he'd be great on camera. So then I kind of stopped him and said, hey, would you mind if I record our conversation for YouTube? Can I ask you some questions? And he was a little bit hesitant because who wants to be on camera, really? But he said, sure, okay. So I grabbed my GoPro, started recording, and I recorded for like 10 seconds, and then the GoPro went beep, 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 and shut down. The battery died. And like it's every single time when you absolutely need your camera to be working, that's when you get to the end of your battery's life. It happens so often. Anyway, so again, I had to stop him and say, oh, battery. Do you mind waiting a second? And I'm rummaging through my bag, and then I pull out the extra battery and go through the motions and put it in. And then I did talk to him. I think his name was Kamel. Yeah, maybe Kamel. And yeah, he knows the park very well. He even knew kind of the founder of the park, and that's part of the story of Bukit Dinding. The trails, the main difficult trails, are all called Kazumi. There's like Kazumi Orange, Kazumi Blue, Kazumi Red, I think. And Kazumi, as I learned, is the name of a woman who blazed these trails. And she was like the moving force of creating the Bukit Dinding hiking trails. So I don't know the full story. It would be interesting to talk to her. But I think before she went there, like, I don't know what was there when she showed up. There had to be the asphalt road and the communications towers. But beyond that, I don't know if other hiking trails or downhill mountain biking trails, because they have those as well. I don't know how many of those existed. Maybe there were already a couple, or maybe there were none. I don't know. But either way, Kazumi loved hiking, and then she was hiking on her own up and down Bukit Dinding, and then the paths that she picked out, she eventually developed them into full trails, marking them, showing the way, clearing them, putting ropes into place. And then over time, the Friends of Bukit Dinding formed. It's a volunteer organization that maintain the trails, pay for the ropes, pay for the signage, things like that, and maintain the website. But it's this woman, Kazumi, who seems to be the founder of the Bukit Dinding hiking trails. So yeah, anyway, he knew her, he met her. He said, oh yeah, I see her on these trails all the time. And I talked to her. So wow. So to me, Kazumi was like a celebrity at this point. So I was like, wow, you met Kazumi. Couldn't believe it. And I was on the Kazumi trail. So anyway, I did interview him, and I hope that part worked out. Just asking simple questions about the park and his experiences there. So I did do a little bit of that. I think I only talked to 2 people, the woman and him. I wanted to talk to a lot more, but after that, the hiking and the trail scrambling got quite challenging, and I had enough on my plate just doing the hike. And my brain was so occupied with that. Like filming myself, I would take the GoPro and clip it to a tree and then film myself climbing up or down one of the sections. So then I'd be filming myself from a distance. And then of course, after I've climbed all the way down, my camera's up at the top. Now I got to climb all the way back up again, get my GoPro, so I'm doing the trail 3 times essentially. Or I would leave my GoPro at the bottom of the hill and then climb up to the top while narrating and waving at the camera, whatever. And then I get to the top, and then I got to go all the way back down again, get my GoPro, come all the way back up to the top, and then start filming again from that point. So I was busy. And then I just turning to other people around me, I'm breathing like, so introduce yourself to the, I was so tired. Yeah, so I never did interview any other people other than the 2 kind of at the beginning. And I had one really interesting experience where I kind of made a mistake because I was at a very steep section going down, and there were people ahead of me and people behind me, and I really wanted to get video of me going down the rope. It looked like the most dramatic moment of the whole hike. And just very quickly, impulse decision, I saw a convenient branch. So I took my GoPro, and as I was starting the descent, I clipped the GoPro to that branch. I quickly aimed it, just hoping that it would work out, because I had people waiting. I couldn't take time. I just did it really quickly, like clamp, like a couple of seconds. And then I started going down the rope. And then as soon as I started going down the rope, I thought, oh man, this was a mistake, because it was so steep. and so difficult to go down. And now I'm going to have to go all the way back up to get my GoPro afterwards and then come all the way down again. That was a bridge too far. And I realized that very quickly. It's like, oh man, I wish I didn't leave my camera up there, because it's going to be so hard to retrieve it. But then there were so many people behind me. There was a man up there who saw what I had done, and then he called down to me and says, hey, do you want me to bring your camera to you? And that saved my life. And I was like, oh, that would be amazing. That would be really great. Thank you so much. So the camera captured me going down, and then a little bit of a woman who was next in line going down, and then this man up at the top. He unclipped my GoPro, and he put it in his knapsack, and he climbed down and then gave it to me. So he saved me the problem of having to get back up there and then doing it 3 times, because it was a pretty challenging section. And I should mention that the reason this was so challenging was not entirely because of the trails and how steep they were. It was because of the rain. So all the trails were muddy and slippery. That's why it was so difficult yesterday, and why you had to hold on to the ropes going down so much, because without that, whew, I'd just be tobogganing down the mountain, down the hill. So if you go there and it's in a dry season and the trails are dry, you're doing a lot of climbing, going up and down and using ropes, and you're rock scrambling. If you're not using the ropes, you're holding on with your hands to go up. But if it's dry, I think it'd be a lot easier. So I guess I shouldn't overstate how difficult it was. For me, it was so difficult mainly because it was so wet, and that's a little bit unusual. And I'm very glad I made one choice that I made, because at the very beginning, you can do what they call the Mini Tahan Trail, and it goes around in a big circle. It's about 7 kilometers long. And I was looking at that one, and I was thinking that looks like the easier trail, because it's longer and sort of hugs the side of the hill, and I thought it would be more gradual, more pleasant for a beginner or for a first timer. But when I was there at the beginning, so the other choice was the Kazumi Trail, and I read online that the Kazumi Trail has a lot of steep up and down portions. So I thought the Mini Tahan would be the better choice for a first timer. But when I talk to people, experts at the beginning, they says, no. The Mini Tahan, that's the tough one. 7 kilometers long, and it's just up and down the whole time. So I went, oh, thank you for that. That's very helpful. So I didn't do that. I took the orange Kazumi Trail number 1, and it was straight up and straight down, straight up, but it's a lot shorter. It's like 1.5 or 2 or 3. I don't know how long it was, like kilometers, much shorter than the Mini Tahan. So the Mini Tahan would have been the more challenging one. But yeah, the other thing, I said I would mention this, is that there were a lot of ropes on these inclines and declines, ascents and descents. But I think I knew this from the past, but it took me a while to figure it out, that I think most of the time when you're climbing up, the rope is harder than no rope. I mean, the rope is there for safety, I think. It's good to have it, but I think if you're going up one of these really steep sections, it's easier not to use the rope. I figured that out. I did the first one using the rope, and then I started the second one with the rope, and then the third one, I started as like, you know what, I think the rope is harder. So this one, I'm just not going to use it. And then that confirmed what I knew, what I remembered from previous hiking trips, that yeah, it's a lot easier just using your hands and rock scrambling, because 2 reasons. When you're using the rope, you have a tendency to stand up straighter, and you end up like rappelling. So all of your weight is falling backwards, and you have to hold on to all of your weight with your hands. And then you end up using a lot of physical effort because you instinctively lean backwards. And then you're like going from side to side. You're holding onto this rope and then you're leaning backwards, and then it's like, whoa, like you're falling over left to right. It takes a lot of muscle strength to maintain your position. And the other reason is that the ropes have a lot of slack in them. So the rope is like lying on the cliff or the muddy ground on the trail. But then when you pick it up, now you're holding it up off the ground and you're taking up a lot of slack. So you pick up the rope thinking you can hold on to it, but the higher you lift the rope, you go backwards because there's so much slack in the rope. And you pick it up and you're like, whoa, holding on for dear life and climbing up the rope. Switch over to no rope, and now you're hugging the cliff rather than leaning away from it. Your body is at the same angle as the cliff, and then you're just grabbing with your hands and you're leaning forward, and then all your weight is going down this way on your feet, which are on the ledge, and then you just grab rocks and you just start climbing up. And it's much, much easier to do it with your hands. So ignore the rope. If you're going up, just ignore the rope. I mean, if you're nervous, hold on to the rope for safety, but it's a lot easier just to climb up using your hands and feet on all fours. Yeah, the rope is much harder than no rope. But if it's muddy and wet, the rope can be a good safety net. And then going down, you need the rope because, going down, if your feet slip out from under you, and then of course going backward. If you're going backwards, holding onto the rope, rappelling, it's a more natural position. Your body is leaning forward more, and then you can look for footholds going down backwards, holding onto the rope. That's okay. But anyway, so. Yeah, I think that is the story of Bukit Dinding. Yeah, quite an adventure yesterday. I'm glad I went. I think, like I said, I woke up at 4:30 to start this adventure, and I got back here around 2:30, 3 o'clock, something like that. It was a pretty long day. Much tougher physically than I expected, and now I have to edit the video. That's going to be my main job for today, is editing the video from Bukit Dinding. Coffee number 2 to start the technology portion of today's podcast. Yeah, technology is a natural second topic because yesterday during the Bukit Dinding hike, I used so much technology, and there was a lot of technology adventures sort of folded into that. I had my GoPro Hero 12 on my usual Jaws Flex clamp, which is out of reach. I was going to show it to you, but you've seen it before probably, but it's too far away. I can't quite reach it without spilling my coffee. But I really like that grip, mainly like even on the hike yesterday. There were so many branches and vines around, and if I ever wanted to attach my GoPro at a distance and film myself or something like that, I could just take the jaws and clamp it to something and then twist the gooseneck around. It works fairly well. The problem was the rear LCD screen on the Hero 12 that I have keeps acting up. I had that problem in Vietnam where the whole rear screen just went fuzzy, and then when I came back to Kuala Lumpur, I brought it back to the store where I bought it, and I had that whole long drama where the people at the store, they saw it, they turned on the GoPro and, oh yeah, there's something wrong with this GoPro, and then they sent it to the distributor to have it repaired or replaced, and this went on over a number of weeks. It was quite annoying. And then when the distributor turned on the GoPro, they never saw the problem. They couldn't reproduce it. So as far as they were concerned, there's nothing wrong with this GoPro, so they just sent it back. And then yesterday, the problem reappeared, which was really annoying because you're trying to set things up to frame something properly, or you're trying to see whether the exposure is good or not. So you're looking at the back of the screen and you can't see anything because it's all just sort of blurry and there's all this distortion in it. And that went on all day yesterday. So that was a bit of a problem. And this morning, while I've been recording this, it was the same thing. So in terms of, I mean, obviously the video quality is not going to be very good in this room, shooting in a GoPro with a big light bulb over here, and I've got another light bulb in the wall over there. And I could turn this one on, but then it ends up being too bright, I think. But then I adjust the exposure compensation to try to get the lighting as good as I can make it. But now I can't see any of the results because on the back of the screen I can't see anything. And then just now, as I turned it on, for this technology portion, the screen kicked back into good shape. So now it's working normally. So this problem is intermittent. It comes and it goes. And of course, if I bring it back to the store and say, look, there's the problem, here it is, can you fix it for me or replace it under warranty, they'll turn on the GoPro and it'll look fine. And so it's like, intermittent problems are the worst in technology because you can't demonstrate to the place where you bought the device, whatever it is, that there is a problem, because whenever they look at it, it's fine. You take it home and then the problem reappears. But anyway, I guess I just have to live with it. So I had that GoPro on a hand grip, and then I had this GoPro on my Teleson neck mount, which is a good thing and not always a good thing. So this has a quick release, the Teleson quick release system. So it locks into place there, and then this unclips, and you put it around your neck. And then it just sort of hangs here. And the problem there's a number of problems with it. I mean, there's some things that work well, some things that don't. It's pretty heavy. You can really feel it around your neck. It feels like you've got a yoke around your neck. And then if you have a microphone here, it hits the microphone. So you have to organize things so that this is kind of as high as possible. And then you have to mount your microphone as low as possible and try and make sure that they're not interfering with each other. And then whenever you lean forward, it swings forward. So I don't know whether using this for a hike like that is a good idea or not. Gives you hands free. So like when I was climbing up the ropes, I would turn off my other GoPro and turn this one on. Then all you see is this perspective. You just see my hands on the rope or things, and you can bend it, twist it down, up, things like that. But maybe for a day like yesterday, I should have used my chest harness, which is more grippy, it's more solid, it doesn't swing around, but it also interferes with the microphone. But yeah, anytime you try to put a camera on your chest and you have a wireless mic or a lavalier mic, yeah, things get complicated. But yesterday, I also brought my Olympus with me. So I had this in my knapsack. And as I've already mentioned, it's too heavy for vlogging, particularly with this lens. I love this lens. It's 12 to 35 in micro four thirds term. In full frame equivalent, this is a 24 to 70. And the other day, I went on a camera rant talking about the new Canon PowerShot V1, which to my eyes could be the best vlogging camera on the market right now. I won't call it a good vlogging camera because all vlogging cameras are terrible, but this one is the least bad of the available options because it has this one is a 24 millimeter lens, and it's not wide enough. And then in order to make it wider, I have to hold it farther away. So I have to get a selfie stick and hold it farther and farther away. But the farther away you hold a camera like this on a stick, the heavier it becomes, and then your arm starts to like jitter. It's like shaking the camera like crazy. You just can't do it, and your arm gets so tired. It's just a giant thing to be holding in front of you. I mean, a lot of vloggers, I see them do it like this when they have a full frame camera or something. This is how they film themselves. They hold the lens. But then you need like a 9mm lens, something like that. Well, well, 9 in micro four thirds term, like 11mm full frame equivalent, something like that. And then if you have that and a heavy camera, well, yeah, you can hold it here and like get it wide enough. But then you're talking thousands of dollars for a rig like that. Anyway, I did bring this with me, had it in my knapsack, and I didn't use it for vlogging, as I said. I thought it would be useful for vlogging as a backup, say if my GoPros broke down completely, or I run through all of my batteries and I have no more battery left for the GoPro. It's always nice to have this with you, or a smartphone, and then you can switch to this to end the day. You need another 30 minutes of battery time. Well, you've always got this with you, and then you can record a conclusion at the end of the day. So it's nice to have a backup. But I did use it quite a bit, and I enjoyed it a lot. And the key thing, it's funny how there's so many things to remember, so many things to learn. I often forget, and then I have to be reminded. And one thing about this camera is it has amazing stabilization. Olympus came out with stabilization. Like, they were the first ones to do it, and they were the best, which is absolutely insane to me. My first Olympus camera was this model, but the first generation, the OMD EM5. It wasn't called Mark 1, it was just called the EM5 because it was the first one, but it's the EM5 first generation. That was the first camera that I bought. And it's a micro four thirds system, and it has IBIS, in-body image stabilization. So the sensor inside the camera is like floating on a set of magnets or something. It's absolutely magical what it can do. And whenever the camera is shaking, the sensor inside the camera is shaking in the opposite direction to compensate for it. So even if your camera is shaking like this, inside the camera, the sensor is like rock steady, and you get amazing stabilization. And this drives me nuts. I can't tell you how much, because the Olympus EM5, which had incredible stabilization, it came out in, I'm guessing 2011, right? 2011 maybe? So that's like 15 years ago. 15 years ago, Olympus produced a camera with near GoPro level stabilization, in-body image stabilization, 15 years ago. And here we are, 15 years later, and Nikon, Canon, who are all the big camera manufacturers, all the biggies, none of them have even come close to it yet. So even, I think they measure these things in EV levels. So they rate the stabilization quality based on how many stops of adjustment in terms of light. So I think the original EM5, and then this one, the EM5 Mark II, it has like 9 stops of stabilization, like 9, something like that. And then even the Canon PowerShot V1, which hasn't even been released yet, the latest, the best, the newest, most high-tech Canon camera for vlogging you can buy. I was looking at the specs. They say the optical, it's not in-body image stabilization. Apparently it has optical stabilization in the lens. I'm still waiting to see how that works out. But they say it offers 5 stops of stabilization. So it's good enough for photography. That's where all these camera companies, they think of everything in photography terms, not in video. But they do say it offers 5 stops of EV stabilization, whereas a camera that came out 15 years ago had like 9 stops. So how in the world is that possible, that Canon is so far behind? I guess, yeah, they just don't care about it, basically. They're worried about photography. They're not worried about video. And then Olympus, yeah, their main advantage over every other manufacturer at that time was that the camera body was smaller and lighter. So this micro four thirds sensor that you see in there, this was an extremely small lightweight body for the time, and it had amazing stabilization. The problem with it has always been the focus, the contrast detect autofocus. That's what kills the Olympus cameras. They did until the Mark III. This is the Mark II, still using contrast detect. The Mark III, they finally added phase detect, and I've always wanted to test the Mark III. And every time I come to Kuala Lumpur, I think in my head, okay, this time I'm going to find somebody who owns the EM5 Mark III and ask them if I can borrow it, because I want to shoot some video with it and just test it. How does the focusing work? How is the stabilization? But again, the problem with this system will be how wide the lens is. They're like all the lenses I have. This one is 24 millimeters. I have a prime. I have a f1.2 prime lens for this camera. Amazing lens. But it's also 24 millimeters. So it's not wide enough. And then you just so that's the problem. And I could fix it with a 9 millimeter lens. Panasonic released a 9 millimeter prime, which looks like an amazing lens, and I've always wanted to at least test it or get one. I'd love to get one. But the problem is, sure, I can buy a 9 millimeter lens for this camera, but that lens probably costs $600 US just for the lens. So if you're going to spend $600 on a lens to try to make this into a useful camera, well, you might as well just buy a new camera, right? I mean, the cost of that lens is $600-700. Now you're getting close to the cost of buying a Canon PowerShot V1, which comes with a 16 millimeter lens built into it. Anyway, I'm getting the numbers mixed up here because 9 millimeters is Micro Four Thirds numbering system. That 9 millimeter is actually 18 in full frame equivalency. So the lens I could buy for this camera is 18 millimeters, but it costs like $600-700. And then the new PowerShot V1 has a 16 millimeter lens built into it. So yeah, getting the 18 millimeter lens for this camera doesn't make a lot of sense from a financial point of view. And you don't know how well the focusing is going to work anyway. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent there. So I did use this yesterday, and I brought it along mainly not because it has 24 millimeter lens, but because it can zoom in to 70. So I thought, because that's the one thing a GoPro can't do. It can't zoom in on anything. All you get is the wide shot. But if you're in the middle of a rainforest, maybe you'll see some amazing birds, macaques, animals, whatever you're going to see in there, mushrooms. Even the lookout points, you get into a lookout point, then you can see the city of Kuala Lumpur. But if you take that video with a GoPro, it's so wide. The city landscape, the urban landscape is like this big. And then I can take this camera out and zoom in a little bit. So I used it quite a bit yesterday. And one thing I forgot and I relearned is that these cameras have two types of stabilization. They have IBIS, the sensor stabilization, and they have digital. And you can set the camera to use one or the other or both. And you might think, well, you use IBIS, you get, say, 7 stops of stabilization. Then you put digital on top of that, you're getting more stabilization. So more must be better, right? Because you've got physical IBIS on top of digital. So man, it's got to be amazing stabilization. And that is true. The stabilization is better, but there's a catch. And I figured that catch out yesterday. I completely forgot about it. Is that digital stabilization has a bit of a lag in it, right? It's not happening in real time. So if you really see it in the GoPro, It's like because GoPro is all digital stabilization. The Pocket 3 digital, no, the Action 4, the Action 5, that is all digital stabilization. And if you move the camera really quickly, the image doesn't keep up. So it's like you move the camera like this, but then it takes the picture much longer to get there because of the digital stabilization. So you've moved the camera, now you're looking here, but the image is still looking in this direction, and you can see it slowly catch up. So there's a bit of lag in the digital stabilization. And then when I was taking video of the landscapes, I had both IBIS and digital turned on, and I was sort of panning across the city, and it was jerky. It was like stuttering. And I thought, what the heck? Is this camera breaking down now? Why is the video looking so weird? It was jerking and jittery, and that's weird. The stabilization must be broken. But then I remembered it's the effect of the digital combined with the IBIS, and I went, oh yeah, stupid. So then I turned off digital and used only what they call sensor shift, the IBIS, and then it was smooth as butter. It's like, okay, I got that. So dumb. And this camera has another trick up its sleeve, which I really enjoy. It's as I said, a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. So 70 millimeter is the farthest telephoto you can get, but it can punch in digitally on that. It can crop in, and it effectively gives you like 140 millimeters. And you can do that with the touch of one button. As these cameras are amazing because they're beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's like a gorgeous, gorgeous camera. The PowerShot V1 from Canon, it's one of the ugliest cameras I've ever seen. It's just pure functionality, which is fine with me, but I do notice it. It's like, man, that's an ugly beast. And these are beautiful, and these are so well made. They're premium cameras. Alloy chassis, the buttons and the knobs, everything feels so good in your hands. But anyway, it has all these buttons on the top, and you can program all of them. And I have this button programmed for that telephoto punch. So at one point I came across some macaques. This was when I was on the asphalt road, and there were some macaques there. And then even the 70 millimeter telephoto, it's not enough. You're not really zooming in enough. And then all you need to do is push this button, and it just punches all the way in. And with the stabilization, you get a nice, I think it was there with the macaques. Yeah, that's when I realized my mistake with the digital stabilization. I still had it turned on at that point. And I was trying to track the macaques because they're moving along these hydro wires. And then somehow I couldn't keep up with them. It was like, I don't know, there's something weird. My camera would get ahead of them or behind them, and I couldn't track them smoothly because the image was like behind them or ahead of them. It was really weird. And then I remembered, oh yeah. So then I turned off digital stabilization, only using IBIS, and then it was like, okay, there we go. Yeah, I remembered that. And then, so I could punch in on them with this one button. When you push the button once, you get a green box on the screen that shows you the zoom level, the zoom box. And then you can move that box around the screen, wherever you want to focus on, and you hit it a second time, and it punches in on a really powerful telephoto. And because it's a micro four thirds sensor, a big sensor, it still looks amazing. Even though you've cropped in dramatically, it still looks incredible. I mean, it looks as good as any other video you're going to see, far better than what you're going to see on a GoPro. So yeah, I had some adventures using this camera where the stabilization issue, I had to figure that out. It's like, dummy, turn off the digital when you're punching in particular, and you're tracking a moving object. The digital plus IBIS works really well if you're holding the camera steady in your hands, like you're aiming it in one direction. That's when you want to use the combination. But if you're moving it at all, tracking something, then you want to have only IBIS turned on. So I figured that out, and then the punching in was really, really nice. We'll see how much of that video I end up using. It's all kind of B-roll, I guess. And other than forgetting my Rode Wireless Go microphone, forgetting to bring my second one, I think those are all the technology stories from Bukit Dinding. WhatsApp. Yeah, I love WhatsApp. It's the main way I stay in touch with people. I communicate with people. I have a couple of friends who are still hanging in there with Facebook Messenger for some reason, and I chat with them over Facebook Messenger, but for the most part, WhatsApp is my connection to the world. But WhatsApp drives me crazy, and I don't know how other people deal with this problem. It drives me crazy because your account and your account number and all of your security systems are all based on your phone number. When you sign up with your phone number, not with an email address. And someone like me, my phone number changes every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days. I have a new phone number because I'm getting a new SIM card in a new country. And the old phone number doesn't work anymore because I've left that country. I'm in a new country and I have a new SIM card. And then if there's a problem with WhatsApp, I lose the whole account because I can't fix anything. Because say you get logged out of your WhatsApp account, you want to log back in, they may want to send you a security code. But they're sending the security code to a phone number from a country you were in 2 years ago, and that phone number isn't working anymore. So then you end up losing your entire WhatsApp account. And that's what happened to me yesterday. It was so annoying. I was busy doing stuff, last night, I think? Did this all happen last night? I'm so drowning in technology, I don't even remember when things happen anymore. I think it was last night no, it was in the morning, the day before, whenever it happened. I was sitting here living my life. I was on WhatsApp with a whole bunch of people sending messages back and forth. And then suddenly I was disconnected. And on everything I had, because WhatsApp now, I like WhatsApp from this point of view. They offered a system now where it's not restricted to one device. So this is my main phone. So this is my main WhatsApp phone, but I was also able to load WhatsApp on this phone and on my laptop using like companion devices. But I was logged out of WhatsApp on this phone. And then I checked this one. Oh, I was logged out here and on my laptop. So I was logged out of WhatsApp on all my devices, which is weird. And then I got a whole bunch of messages because I have an email address linked to my WhatsApp account, and I was getting all these email messages saying, what was the exact language? Maybe it's important to get the language correct here, but it was basically telling me, here it is, but it was telling me in Malay. I wasn't even getting English messages. Here, I got this message that said, tap the link to verify your account on this device, or copy and paste this code on WhatsApp. And then it gave me a security code. And then I got other messages that were saying someone is trying to log in on this WhatsApp account using this phone number. And if this is you, click on this link to verify. But it wasn't me. I wasn't doing it. So somebody else was trying to log in to my WhatsApp account using my phone number. But that's the trick, and that's the complicated part, because you instantly think it must be an evil person who's trying to hijack my WhatsApp account, pretending they're me and entering my phone number, and then trying to get me to click on the link to allow them access. But that doesn't make a lot of sense because that phone number doesn't work anymore. So it's expired. It was a phone number from years ago. It's expired. And what I think could have happened is that because that phone number expired and I'm not using it anymore, the telecom company is recycling it. So a brand new person bought a SIM card, a tourist or somebody, could be a local person, who knows, they bought a SIM card with that phone number because the company is using it again because I'm not using it anymore. And now this person bought a SIM card. The phone number just happens to be the same phone number that I was given. And then they tried to open a WhatsApp account. So they entered their phone number for WhatsApp and it says, oh, this number is already in use. There's already a WhatsApp account assigned to this number. What would you like to do? And then they're like trying to log in and they get a barrier because I turned on two-step verification, which you can do on WhatsApp now. And to be honest, I don't think I turned it on until last year. For some reason, I couldn't use it before because of this phone number problem. I couldn't get a security code. But anyway, I managed to figure out how to do it. And just last year, sometime in November, I think, I added two-step verification to my WhatsApp account. So when this new person tried to log in on that phone number, they hit a barrier. And now I was getting all these email messages saying, oh, click on this link to verify. And obviously I didn't. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to click on that link to verify because I'm not the one doing it. Somebody else is doing it. I don't know who they are. So I ignored all these email messages. And then I got a whole bunch of email messages. Again, I should look at the language just to get this correct. Basically telling me to turn off two-step verification. It basically says, follow the link below to disable two-step verification for your WhatsApp account. So I think the person trying to sign into my account, they were asked for my two-step verification security code, and they couldn't supply it. They don't know what it is. So then they tried to disable it, but in order to disable it, you have to approve it. They send you an email message and say, oh, you want to turn off two-step verification? Click on this link to prove that it's you. But it's another person doing it, and they're sending the link to me and saying to turn off two-step verification, click on this link. So of course I didn't do that either because again, I don't know what's going on. So at this point, I don't know what happened. It could be a perfectly normal, innocent person just bought a SIM card and it turns out I have the WhatsApp account associated with that phone number. And now they're stuck. They can't open a WhatsApp account with that phone number because I'm the one blocking them. And I'd happily give it up to them, but I don't know how, I don't even understand how WhatsApp works. You know, let's say I decide that this is a nice person and I just, well, I don't have the phone number anymore, so I'll give it to them. But what if I say, okay, turn off two-step verification? Technically, they are logging into my WhatsApp account. So they'll have access, right, to all my contacts, all the people I'm in regular contact with. I can't do that to these people. So, like, I don't know what to do. I was completely stuck. And I can't register, I can't log back in. I tried to do it. I started the process and said, well, I think it's safe for me to log into my own account, right? I couldn't think why that would be a security concern. So I clicked on WhatsApp and it says, enter your details. And then I get a message that says, oh, someone has already been trying to log into this account many, many times. So we need to send you a security code to verify that it's you. But they can't send me a security code because the phone number doesn't work. I don't have the phone number anymore. So you see what I mean about WhatsApp. WhatsApp is great as long as you keep the same phone number forever. But if your phone number changes every time you go to a new country, then you lose your WhatsApp account again and again and again and again. And it keeps happening to me. Or you buy a new phone, or you do something transferring your WhatsApp account to a new phone. It used to be you needed to be Einstein to figure out how to do it. It's so complicated. Anyway, I've never understood why WhatsApp uses this system. And then I don't understand how WhatsApp can be as popular as it is. It feels like this phone number based account system would be such a barrier and such a problem to so many people that the app itself would never become popular. But I guess very few people are in my situation. And I often wonder about other YouTubers, other travelers. They're in the same boat as me. Aren't they also constantly getting a new phone number? How do they maintain a WhatsApp account? I'd like to know the secret for all of those people. I was never able to figure out how to do it. But that was until yesterday. Yesterday, I did reopen, not my old WhatsApp account, I opened a brand new WhatsApp account, and fingers crossed, I'll never have to do it again. And again, this is a bit of a long technical story. You have to forgive me for that. That's all I end up dealing with. I don't know why my life is so difficult, but it is. The thing is that when it comes to phone numbers and phone calls, I use a company in Canada called Fongo. And Fongo, I guess, is a VoIP, which is an internet-based phone number. But it mimics a Canadian phone number. So my Fongo number behaves as if it is a landline in Canada. But it can also receive SMS messages, things like that. And assuming you keep your account updated and you never lose it, I can keep that phone number for the rest of my life. I had one Fongo that I already lost once. I don't know what happened. I guess I didn't update it or something and it disappeared and I had to get a new Fongo number, which was a problem. But now I have a Fongo number and I'm assuming I can keep it for years and years and years and years. And I thought, okay, if I open a WhatsApp account and instead of inserting my Malaysian phone number or my Indonesian phone number from my SIM cards from those countries, why don't I enter the Fongo number, which I will keep forever? So I did that, and then it didn't work because I got a message saying, oh, we're trying to send you an SMS security code, but we can't send security codes to this type of phone number. So a internet-based phone, their computers know what it is. They detect it and say, we have to send the security code to an actual SIM card mobile number. We cannot send it to an internet-based number. So I thought, well, that's it. I'm done. I can't do anything anymore. But then I noticed that there was another option that said, how about a voice call? If the SMS isn't working, you can choose between MSS security code or a voice call. And I thought, maybe my Fongo number won't work with a security code on an SMS. Maybe I can get a phone call. Maybe that will actually work. Who knows how smart their computers are? So I tried to do that, and then I got a message saying, you just tried to do it with the security code, so you have to wait 1 hour before you can try again. There's all these security time limits, and I guess that prevents computers and bots from like doing 1,000 per millisecond. You have to wait 1 hour between attempts. So I waited an hour. It was very hard to wait that long, but eventually I got a message saying, your hour of being in prison is up. You may try again. And this time I selected voice call, and it worked. My phone rang like a normal phone call. I hit the hello button and said, hello, and a computer talked to me. It said, if this is you and you're trying to get a security code, hit number 6. And I always find that complicated. I get kind of weirded out because when you're looking at the phone, there's no numbers on it. It says hit number 6. I'm like, I don't like, there's no keypad, but you have to hit a button to turn on the keypad. Now the keypad is here, and then I hit number 6, and then it gave me the security code. Gave it to me twice. I made sure to have my laptop open so that I can be listening with one ear and one hand, and then I can type out the number, and I wait for the second time, retype it, so I've got the security code. So, long story. happy ending. I now have, well, kind of a happy ending. I lost all of my WhatsApp contacts. I lost all of my WhatsApp history. And I use the WhatsApp history all the time because I'm chatting with friends and they'll tell me a week ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 months ago, they'll tell me something like, oh, I'm going to Vietnam on this date. And then they tell me that in the message. And now in the present moment, I'm thinking, oh, when are they going to Vietnam? And I can go back in our history and I can find all this information, everything we were talking about for the last 2 years. I can see everything. And I like that. I use it all the time. But all of that is gone. All of the history I had with everybody in my life, everything is gone because I lost my WhatsApp account and there's just no way to get it back. So I'm starting fresh. So now anybody that I know personally, I'm having to contact them individually one by one. I contacted a bunch of people to warn them that I lost my WhatsApp account and it's possible that somebody else got into it because I don't know how it ended. Maybe this person got around the two-step verification and maybe they logged in as me and maybe they're a scammer and now they're going through my contact list on WhatsApp and reaching out to everybody and pretending to be me and doing evil things. I don't know. So I told a bunch of people like if someone contacts you right now and says they're me, be suspicious. It may not be me. It probably isn't me because right now I don't have a WhatsApp account, so it's not me. But of course, now that I have a brand new WhatsApp account, I am contacting these people through WhatsApp, and then I'm saying, hey, this is Doug. This is a brand new WhatsApp account. I managed to open one, and let's go get back to normal. But now I've told them to be suspicious, and I'm expecting all these people to come back and say, are you really, really you? Now we have to have this secret conversation. Like they'll have to ask me things like, ask me something that only I would know. Now I have to prove to all these people that the message they're getting on WhatsApp is really coming from me before they'll trust me again. It's just like, the modern world, man, so stressful, so difficult sometimes. At least it is for me. I'm getting worn out from all the technology. I really am. So yeah, WhatsApp technology story. Though, as a funny ending to this story, I was a friend of mine that I lost touch with. I did send him a message yesterday saying, hey, it's me. I have a new WhatsApp account. And I'm telling him my story, like, oh, this is so awful, this thing that happened to me, WhatsApp, and someone's trying to hijack on and on. And then this friend of mine, he kind of writes back and he's commiserating. He says, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And he says, I had a problem too because someone committed fraud. Someone took over my credit card. And they were actually in Borneo right now. They're traveling, they're backpacking around the world, and they've got this credit card that they're using. Their whole life is based on this credit card. And they got all these fraudulent charges, so they had to cancel their credit card. And he told that story to me. And of course, his story makes my story look like nothing, right? So I take, all I had to do was make a new WhatsApp account, and I was done in a few minutes. And I turn that into a story like the world is ending, like it's the apocalypse. WhatsApp. For me, it's a 20-minute rant. And here, a friend of mine, he loses his entire credit card, has to deal with contacting his bank, who they won't answer their phone, they won't connect with him, and he's got all these fraudulent charges building up on his account. So his problem, far, far, far bigger than mine, and it never occurs to him to even mention it. So maybe my life isn't nearly as difficult as I think it is. I just like to turn it into a big drama for Planet Doug behind the scenes. All these other people that I know are going through much worse than I'm going through, but I guess they just take it in their stride. And when they talk to me, it never even occurs to them to bring it up. So maybe I'm just a wimp that way, or maybe I just like to I like to tell stories. I like to think that's the truth here. A little bit of a Patreon story. I posted something to this I posted something about this on Patreon already, but I thought I'd talk about it a little bit here in case you missed that, or maybe I can have a more detailed discussion about it here, where I got a message on Patreon from Patreon announcing a report. I guess they did a survey. They surveyed 1,000 of what they call creators. It always seems like a very pretentious thing, the language around this, but apparently I am a creator. So they interviewed 1,000 creators, and they interviewed 2,000 fans of creators, so who are members of Patreon and are sponsoring a Patreon creator. So they interviewed 3,000 people about Patreon, about YouTube, about Instagram, about all kinds of things to do with the world of the content creator. And then they put together a report, and they called the report State of Create. And I clicked on the link, and it takes you to their webpage where they have the State of Create. I think it's open to everybody. You can go there and watch, or not watch it, you look at it. And it's a very high-tech, graphic-intensive thing you scroll through that goes on and on and on and on. Lots of crazy graphics, and they put a lot of time into the graphics end. And they're just giving the results of the report. And in a nutshell, my version of what they discovered, or what they're reporting, hardly seems like it's even worth reporting because it's perfectly obvious to me. But I guess you have to confirm these things by interviewing people. But the basic idea seems to be that the big social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all these things have moved away from a follower model to more of a trending topics model. So long ago, for example, you open a YouTube account and you're posting YouTube videos, someone subscribes to your YouTube channel, then every time they go to YouTube, your videos show up in their feed. So if they subscribe to 10 YouTube channels, when they go to their YouTube feed, they'll see 10 videos. Each one is the most recent video from the channels that they are subscribed to. So it's a strong connection between the YouTuber and their subscribers. When they go to YouTube, they see your videos. That's how it started. And then over time, I think YouTube did the correct thing. I mean, they're a business, they're trying to make money, they're selling ads, they're not doing this for charity. And they realized that that doesn't make them a lot of money. They started peppering the YouTube feed with videos from people that you're not subscribed to. And then of course YouTube got taken over by the big corporations, celebrities. You go to YouTube now and it's all YouTube channels from the big news networks, from late night talk show hosts, basically from people who are already famous for something. They all now have YouTube channels and their videos get millions of views, whereas the people you subscribe to get very small amount of views. So they don't make any money for YouTube. So YouTube changed their system. So now when you go to your YouTube page, you don't see the videos from the people you subscribe to. You see the videos from all the big million, billion corporations. You know, you're seeing videos that YouTube thinks you're going to click on and watch. Sensational topics. If a plane crashes, everybody's clicking on that. The new Justin Bieber scandal. Whatever is going on in the world of pop culture and media in general, that's what you're seeing on YouTube now. You are not seeing the videos from the channels you subscribe to. So the connection between small YouTuber and their followers has been broken. And I knew that. Everybody knows that. That's perfectly obvious. I don't know how many channels I subscribe to. I don't generally worry about subscribing. I do it more as just to be nice to the person. Like if it's a friend of mine who's traveling around the world and they're posting videos, well, yeah, I'm going to subscribe to their channel. Of course I'm going to. and then I don't pay attention to notifications. If I want to see somebody's video, I go to their channel and I look at their most recent videos. I do it all manually, so I don't care really about what shows up in my feed. I never look at notifications. They aren't very useful to me. But I will still subscribe to their channel because it's a good friend of mine, and they look and they notice, hey, you're not even subscribed to my channel? What kind of a friend are you? Well, so I subscribe to a bunch of these channels, and there are there's channels I'm interested in that are more about science and geography and history, things like that. I enjoy those sorts of videos, so I subscribe to those channels. But when I go to my YouTube feed, none of the videos show up. So I have all the, like maybe I'm subscribed to 50 channels, I don't know. But out of all those 50 channels that I'm subscribed to, none of their videos show up in my YouTube feed. Well, I shouldn't say none. Very few of them do. The videos YouTube shows me are from other places. Trending topics, sensational topics, plane crashes, whatever is going on in the news is now in my YouTube feed. And it's the same thing for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook, Facebook is the worst. Facebook used to be entirely about you and your friends and family. As far as I can tell now, Facebook has got nothing to do with that. I scroll through my Facebook page, I have no idea what I'm looking at anymore. It's just a jumble of absolute drivel and nonsense that I have no interest in anything that shows up on Facebook. It's just so weird. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. But anyway, YouTube, I still click on a bunch of things that YouTube gives me, so it's not as bad. YouTube is not as bad as Facebook. I never go to Facebook. I only go there because I have one friend who consistently posts photographs from his travels and from his life. So I go to Facebook to go to his page and I look at the photos he posts. But nobody else I know uses Facebook anymore, so I have no use for it. Anyway, so that was the first point about the State of Create report, that in all the social media, the relationship between creator and follower has been broken out there. And then they go on to say, well, that's why Patreon and sites like Patreon offer something good to a YouTuber, to a content creator, because even though you've lost this connection with your followers on YouTube, now you can use Patreon to maintain that connection. That Patreon is keeping that content creator follower connection very, very strong. And then they're basically saying, okay, this is why Patreon offers value to people who join, because it's a good way to maintain that strong connection, even though you've lost it on all these other platforms. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, to be honest. That's the main thing I'm getting out of Patreon, that connection with people that I've gotten to know through YouTube. And yeah, it's another way to keep a strong connection outside of YouTube. So yeah, that was kind of interesting, but I was a little bit annoyed with them, with Patreon, because I went through the entire report. I read the whole thing from beginning to end, and they couched everything in terms of the year 2025. They're telling you what's wrong with the world of content creation. Here's how Patreon addresses that problem, can help you out, and they're implying that in the year 2025, we're going to build on that. We have all these amazing things we're doing, new ideas, new features. Everything is going to be all about connecting you with your followers, and we've got all these great things we're building and adding and this and this and that. So I'm thinking, wow, this sounds pretty darn exciting to me, because I like Patreon a lot. I'm using it a lot, and I want to get to the end of the report. I want to learn about all these new things they're going to be putting in place in the year 25. If I can read something, this is how they conclude. They say, we will continue to build ways to strengthen relationships between creators and the people who love what they do. So they're going to strengthen, they're building new ways. And I thought, oh, this is pretty exciting. Like, what are you guys doing? I get all the way to the end of the report, Nothing. They don't mention a single thing. They say they're building new ways to strengthen that relationship, but if they are building these ways, they don't tell you what they are. And off the top of my head, I talked about this in my Patreon little essay. One problem I have with Patreon is that there's no mechanism for me to get a notification for a comment reply. So if I post something and someone comments on it, I get a notification. So I check Patreon. Oh, this person left a comment. I click on it. I reply to them. It's great. But those are comments. And then if that person replies, or another person comes in, replies to that comment, replies to me, and we're all talking back and forth, no notifications. I have no idea. There could be 100 people on Patreon right now busy replying to things, talking, leaving ideas, asking me questions. I have no idea. And isn't that the most important relationship between me and people who join Patreon? What if somebody's asking me right now, oh, where are you? And when are you going back to Sumatra? And they've asked me that question in a comment reply, but I don't know about it. The only way for me to reply to replies is to do a manual search. I have to go through my entire Patreon history, post by post by post, clicking on everything, opening it up. And in Patreon, it's not that easy. You have they hide the replies, and you have to click on the load replies button, which opens up a new window. It's a long and difficult process. And I have to, every single post, I have to open the post, load replies, open a new window, scan down, looking for a reply. All because Patreon does not give me notifications about that. And I miss a lot of them. People ask me things, people follow up with new ideas, and I never reply to these people because I look and I look and I look, but I can't sit here for 12 hours a day just constantly loading Patreon posts and checking all the replies one by one by one by one. Just, I don't have the time. You can't do it. You're going to miss them anyway. In this rare instance, YouTube is actually better because in the YouTube comments, you can filter, and there's a filter where I can filter based on certain parameters. And one of the parameters is comments with new replies. So it is a multi-step process. I've got to turn on the filter, select the option, but then I finally get a list of comments with new replies, and I can go through that. But Patreon doesn't offer that. So if they're talking to me and say, oh, Mr. Doug, how can we make Patreon better for you to strengthen your relationship with Patreon members? It's the first thing I'm going to tell them. I need notifications about replies to comments and replies to replies. I need to be notified. Anytime one of my members posts something, a question, you got to tell me about it. Give me a notification. Like, why don't you? To me, it's one of these no-brainers. I'm sure there are extremely smart people at Patreon getting paid a lot of money to engineer these things and code the website and do all these things. I'm sure they're smarter than I am. Why can't they see this? That I need notifications for replies to comments. I just do. And man, don't have it. And I could go on and on and on. I could come up with a dozen features that Patreon could use, but in their state of create report, not a whisper, not a single idea, not even a hint about new things coming out in 2025. So I found that very disappointing. I read the whole report. To me, it was kind of a no-duh kind of report. They weren't telling me anything I didn't already know. It was more like an advertisement for Patreon. It was basically telling people what Patreon can give you of value. Basically saying to YouTubers, hey, YouTubers, you're losing this direct connection with your followers. We can help with that a little bit. So come open a Patreon account with us, and then let's get that going. Fair play. I don't disagree with them. I think they're right. But it's something I already knew. I wanted to know about the new ways they're going to help us with that. And they offered nothing, not even a whisper. The LCD screen on my GoPro broke down again. I could hardly see anything on the rear screen. And the interesting thing there is when it was happening in Vietnam a lot, and then it stopped happening here when the distributor checked my GoPro, I thought it was because of overheating, because my GoPro was overheating a lot in Vietnam, and I thought the overheating was causing the screen to go wonky. But here I'm in a very air-conditioned room. I'm not running on battery power. I'm using USB-C power. So the GoPro is perfectly cool. There's no heat being generated at all. It's not overheating, but the screen is still going wonky. So it's not an overheating problem. It is a problem with the GoPro itself. But I think I just have to live with it and hope it just doesn't get worse. Yeah, that's just because there's no way they're ever going to do anything about it now. And to be honest, I don't want to deal with it. I wasn't pleased about this when the camera store where I bought it, they did send it to the distributor, and then they eventually came back to them with a note saying there's nothing wrong with this GoPro. And I went to go pick up my GoPro, but basically I was living without my Hero 12 for I don't know how many weeks it was while they were doing all this. So basically I was the one that was hurt because I didn't even have my camera anymore. And then when they gave it back to me at the camera store, they had the nerve to tell me that if this happens again, don't come to us. Go directly to the distributor. Like we don't want to be involved. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I thought that was a bit much because I don't know the distributor. I don't know where they are. How am I going to go to the GoPro distributor and walk into their door and say, oh, hey, I bought this GoPro at a store somewhere in Kuala Lumpur, and please, can you fix it or replace it? I have to go through the store. And they were telling me I can't anymore. But again, from that point of view, again, I talk about it a lot. The customer has very little power in Malaysia. I bought this very fancy, quite expensive USB-C adapter. I talked about it at length in my previous behind-the-scenes video. And then it always annoys me when I look at the receipt, because on the receipt it says in big black letters, no refunds, no exchanges, nothing from the store. Like, you buy it from us, anything after that is your problem. We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to give you a refund if it's broken. We're not going to do anything. And that's the norm in Malaysia. And that's so counter to my experiences in Canada growing up. And I think it's still the same today. You buy a camera from a camera store and then you bring it home and there's a problem with it. You have every legal right just to go back to the store and say, I want my money back. You hand over the camera and say, it's broken. I want a refund. Why not? That just seems normal to me. They send it back to the manufacturer. They get their money back. So what's the big deal? Or you just want to get an exchange. You say, oh, this GoPro is broken. And then in Canada, they say, oh, they look at it. Oh, yeah, there's a problem. They get a new GoPro off the shelf, hand it to you. Okay, here you go. Here's the new one. We'll take the broken one and we'll send it back. It just seems normal to me. But here in Malaysia, it's no, not a chance. No refunds, no exchanges. Once you walk out the door, it's your problem, buddy. Nothing to do with us. So that's kind of weird. I always find that a bit of an insult when I read the receipt, you know. But yeah, different business culture, I guess. So that was not the topic of this section. I guess the topic of this section is going to be kind of personal stories. And I continue to have my double room, single room adventures here in this hotel. And maybe that ties in again with customer service in Malaysia, which I find a little bit lacking compared to neighboring countries. Or maybe it's just my luck because I stay in low budget accommodation. But I had the same experience all over again. It didn't go on for a long time, but it was me in this double room that I'm in now. And I wanted to extend my stay because I wanted to go to Bukit Dinding, so I wanted to stay in Malaysia a bit longer. And then I was going to rebook the room. And then when I went online, there were no double rooms available. There never is. So it's like, I can't even book a double room. But they did have a single room available. So online, I booked a single room. And then I'm now, once again, I'm dealing with the hotel staff, and I'm living in a state of limbo because they don't know. They have no idea whether a double room will be available, a single room, do I have to move to a new room? And they talked to me about how the owner isn't happy because the last time I was in a double room, even though I paid for a single. And I keep telling them, listen, I'm not looking for favors here. I'm not trying to get away with anything. I'm booking a single room. Put me in a single room. I'm happy as can be. There's no advantage to this double room anyway. So I keep telling them, like, the only reason I booked a single, I'm not trying to get away with anything here. That's all you have available. So I had no choice. So I booked a single. And then they talk to me like, oh, I don't know, doing you a favor, like, the boss isn't happy. And I'm like, hey, I'm not looking for a favor. I booked a single. Just on the day of, just tell me room 301 up on the 3rd floor is my new single room. I'll move up to the 301. I got no problem with that. And I end up with these long discussions with him. We don't know yet. We're looking into it. And he's got this notebook in front of him, like writing by hand, line by line, and he's calculating. And it's like, I don't know why it's so hard. There's a computer right there. Let's let the computer take care of reservations. And anyway, I went through it all over again. And I was sitting here in this room and worried that the power was going to go out because I didn't hear from them. And I was sort of stuck in my room because I'm in this double room and I don't know if I have to move to a single room or not. So I can't leave. I can't go out into the city and go have breakfast or go have lunch or meet friends or do anything because I'm a prisoner now, and I'm waiting for the knock on the door to tell me, oh, sir, you can stay in this room, or sir, you have to move. And then at 12 o'clock, checkout time, I move, bring out my bags, and then at 2 o'clock, check-in time, I move my bags into the new room. But I don't know whether this is happening, and I waited and waited and waited all morning, got up to noon, and just as we were approaching noon, I went, ooh, there could be a problem here because all the power systems are computerized. And if your room key signals that you're checking out, they shut off the power. At noon, I've had this experience. And because even when I rebooked the room and I paid for it, you still have to go down to the front desk and they have to reprogram your key card. And there were a couple of times in the past where I've forgotten to do that. I paid for the room and everything's fine, but then I'm sitting here and then suddenly, boom, I'm in the dark. My computer shuts down, power is gone, and then I have to go find someone, and then there's no one at the front desk. And then I can't even leave my room and find out that there's nobody here, because quite often there's no one at the front desk, there's no one in the hotel, I don't know where they are, and now I'm locked out of my room because my card can't get me back in, and I'm just like walking up and down the hallways in my bare feet and in my pajamas practically, because I didn't get dressed up to go outside. I just went out in my bare feet to go down to the front desk to get them to reprogram my card, and then there's nobody there, and now I'm locked out of my room, and I just have to sit there in my shorts and t-shirt and bare feet waiting for someone to show up. Anyway, so I've had this experience in the past, and then this time I was waiting just before noon, and I'm like waiting and waiting, and then the clock went by. It was like 12:01, 12:02, and the power never went out. And I thought, oh, that's weird, because I never reprogrammed the card, so I don't know what happened there. And then I eventually just ran into the staff at random. There's one guy basically who seems to work here all the time. Almost no one else. He does all the room cleaning, all the reservations, he does everything. He runs the whole hotel, just one guy. And then I ran into him, and then he said, oh, Mr. Douglas, you can stay in that room. And I was like, well, thank you. Would have been nice to know about that 6 hours ago. But anyway, so I had my whole double room, single room drama all over again. And I'm going to be staying for a few days more, and I haven't rebooked yet, so I'll probably do that today. I think I'm still here for another 3 or 4 nights. I've already paid for, so it should be okay. But I'll probably go through this whole double room, single room drama all over again. And the other big story in my life, I feel like I already told this story, but I'm not sure about it. It just feels familiar. I always have adventures at the laundromat. And I've often thought that the laundromat would be a good place to do a sociological study, because you see humanity at a laundromat in a way that you don't see them anywhere else. Sort of the pure, uncut humanity. And it's usually not the best of. It's usually where you go to see the worst of people, is at a laundromat. And I think that's true around the world, because a certain class of person uses laundromats. They're either like me, a wanderer, a vagabond, who has no other choice. Like normal people, established people, have their own washing machines in their house or their apartment. So they're not going to laundromat. So the only people going to laundromat are a little bit on a different type of society, like me, or people who don't have washing machines. So they tend to be poorer people, is what I guess what I'm saying, people who don't have any money, and that of course leads you into a certain segment of society. So it's never a good experience. They can be very depressing places. But here in Kuala Lumpur, I found some good laundromats that are clean and modern. If you pick the right ones, you go to the wrong ones, oh man, they're awful places, really disgusting, horrible places. But I do know of a laundromat here, which is a pretty nice one. But in this case, I went there at night, and I don't usually do that. I usually go in the daytime, and they tend to be more empty in the daytime, and I kind of forgot about that. And this time I was just kind of lazy during the day. I didn't want to bother. So I went there more into the evening, and when I got there, it was really busy. And I thought, dummy, you should have gone during the day. I forgot that it was busier at night. So I did go there, and I had very little laundry. And I think I'm a pretty good customer. Anywhere I go, I'm a good customer. So you go to the laundromat, they have certain rules. And they have these rules to protect the machines, basically. They don't want you destroying their expensive washing machines and dryers. So they have rules about how much, like, don't overload the machines, because then you're going to break them, you're going to wear out the motors, etc. Don't put in running shoes or hiking boots, anything big and clunky that's going to be banging around. You can't put in carpets. They have rules about things you can and cannot put into the laundry machine and how much you can put in. And I understand the rules perfectly, because these are very expensive machines and you don't want people destroying them. And I follow those rules. I'm not putting my sandals are pretty muddy after my trip to the hiking thing, but I'm washing my own sandals in the stream. There was a waterfall at the end of the hike, and I took off my sandals and I went into the waterfall, and I got a rock, and I'm using a rock in the waterfall to scrape all the mud off, and I'm getting a tiny stone and digging into the treads, and I'm spending 15 minutes cleaning my sandals on my own. But a lot of people would take those sandals to the laundromat and they throw them into the machine. And obviously you should not do that. And I don't. I'm a good customer. I don't do that. I don't put in carpets. I don't put in shoes. I don't put in big metal things that are going to be banging around. And I don't overload. And I think in my case, I don't overload to an extreme level. And I think the other people that use laundromats must look at me like I'm a real dummy, because I'm not taking advantage of the company by getting as much for my money as possible. Because they always have different size machines, right? They have like the 7 kilogram machine, the 14 kilogram, the 20 kilogram. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. And most people that go to laundromats, they put everything in. Running shoes, backpacks, carpets, it doesn't matter. Everything goes into the washing machine, and they jam in as much as they can possibly fit, because they're trying to get as much value. They're not going to take their load and split it over 2 machines. No, their whole load, whatever it is, they are just jamming in as much as humanly possible. They're overloading the machines, and they're putting in inappropriate items. I see it all the time. And on the night I went to this laundromat was an extreme example of that. And then all of the small machines, the cheapest ones, were full. And I'm looking at them and it's like, they are jammed full. Like, why would you put that much clothing into a machine? Because you're also paying a price because they're not going to get washed very well because of the amount of water and the rinsing that goes on. And at this place, they have an automated soap delivery system. It's a really cool kind of place where they even have a window, a little compartment with a glass window. You can see the soap pump working. So it tells you you don't have to put soap in. The soap is automatic, because that can also damage the machines, putting in way too much soap, and then there's too much soap in the environment, in the water leaving this place, and your clothes can't rinse properly because you've added too much soap. And they're telling you, we put in the right amount of soap. Trust us. This is all you need. But of course, nobody believes them. And all these people that filled up all the small machines, I saw them come in later on adding more loads, and they've got these big bags of laundry soap, and they open up the lid and they're just like pouring in so much soap. And I can kind of understand why they're doing it, because the soap that the laundromat adds, I watched it when I did mine. I like watching the little machines work and the timing of it, and I'm watching the machine, and it kicks in and it goes zzz, a little pump starts running, and you can see the liquid soap being delivered into the laundromat. But the thing is, the soap that they add, it doesn't create any bubbles. You don't get that satisfying white, frothy, bubbly stuff going on. Because I think technically, laundry soap, modern laundry soap, it doesn't need to have bubbles to work. I think in the past, if you saw bubbles, it meant the soap was working. It was real soap. But these days, laundry detergent just works on its own. It doesn't need to create bubbles anymore. I think in modern laundry detergents, like the big companies like Tide or whatever, I think they add artificial bubbly stuff, because they know people don't believe the soap works unless they see bubbles. But I think Tide can work perfectly well without bubbles, and they add it now artificially. So anyway, this liquid soap, it doesn't really create a lot of bubbly foam. So when I'm looking at my machines, I don't really see any soap. You do feel like, is my clothing really getting clean? Like, I don't even see any soap. And all the other people around me, they come to the same conclusion that, nah, they're not adding any soap. They're just trying to trick us. And they take their bags of laundry, they just pour so much soap in. And they add all this detergent and all of this sanitizer. And the machines add all this stuff automatically. You don't need to do any of that. But all the other people, they just pour it in. Anyway, when I showed up, all the machines were full, the cheap ones, and they were jammed. And I had like 2 pairs of underwear, 3 t-shirts, and I had like 1 pair of pants and this bed sheet that I travel with. I had very, very little. I couldn't even fill up a small machine. And then because all the small machines were full, I had to use the 14 kilogram machine. And again, I don't really have a problem with that. I may even do that normally, because it just gives your clothing a better wash and rinse, because you're putting in a smaller amount in a bigger machine, and there's more water, more tumbling. So I'm like, okay, I'll pay the extra ringgit to use the bigger machine. And so when I walked in, I had this tiny little bag. I could see all the other people looking at me like, what the heck? Where's your huge bag? Why aren't you washing 800 kilograms at a time? And I'm like, well, I don't know. This is all I got. This is all of my clothing. This is everything I have. I have this pair of gym shorts that I wear when I'm in my hotel room, and that's what I wear when I'm hanging out here. And then I had like this 1 button-down shirt that I had never worn, not even once, since the last time it was washed. So to go to the laundromat, I put on my gym shorts and my button-down shirt, and then all of my other clothing, every piece of clothing I own, I brought it with me, and it's just like a little bundle. And then I walk up to the 14 kilogram machine, and I toss in my little bits of clothing, and I'm putting in the tokens, and people must think I'm insane. It's like, dude, like, why are you paying the extra 2 ringgits to use that machine? Save 2 ringgits, wait for these machines to be available. But anyway, I just used the bigger machine. So I'm there, and then I'm watching all the other people doing their things. I'm curious about how much clothing is going to come out of those small machines. And when they're done the rinse cycle, I'm wondering, there's no way the soap got rinsed out because you put in so much soap. And then they take the basket, and they're trying to get their clothing out of the machine. It is so packed in there, it's difficult to even remove it. It's like you need a crowbar and a hammer and a chisel to sort of get in there, and they're pulling things out. It's so jammed in there. It all goes into the basket, and then instead of taking that load and bringing it to the dryer, then they get another basket to empty the next machine, and they put 2 loads together, and they put all of that in one dryer because the dryers are physically larger. And man, do they pack that dryer. And they got the running shoes, and they've got the carpets, and all these things they're not supposed to have. All goes into the dryer, and they close that dryer door, and then they leave the laundromat, because now I guess they went to go get lunch or get dinner, whatever. And then I'm there by myself at that point, waiting for mine to finish, and then their dryers all start popping open because there's so much in them, and it's so heavy that as the dryer is tumbling, the load hits the door and pops them open because there's just too much in the dryer. It actually forces the door open. So now while all these people are gone, I'm constantly pushing their clothes back in, closing the dryer door and hitting the restart button again and again and again, waiting. And then eventually it got dry enough that the weight wouldn't pop the door open anymore. But anyway, I was doing that for all of these people, and if I didn't do it for them, they would have come back and nothing would have been dry because the door would have popped open and doesn't restart on its own. So that was my experience at the laundromat. And the only other thing that was kind of a funny story, I feel like I told this already, maybe I just told it to a friend of mine, is that you have to get tokens. And in terms of like the bills you have, it's like 1 ringgit per token, and then you put the tokens into the washing machine. And you have to guess in advance maybe how many tokens you need, and I ended up with too many because the dryer, I had such little amount of clothing, I thought maybe I'd have to keep the dryer going a little bit longer, so I had some extra tokens. And it turns out I didn't need them because 1 machine to wash, and then I ran out of tokens and I had to get more for the dryer, but all I had was a 10 ringgit note. I didn't have singles or a 5 or anything. So all I could do was get 10 tokens, thinking, well, maybe I can use them, I don't know. But anyway, I ended up with extra tokens. I had 6 extra ones in total, as it turned out, and I kept 2 of them in my pocket because I thought I might need them for the dryer, and I had 4 I knew I would have no use for. And I'm not going to carry them around for the rest of my life on the off chance I come back to this laundromat. So I was just going to give them to somebody. I thought about just leaving them on the table. The next person can come in and go, ooh, score, extra tokens that somebody left behind. But then I was worried people wouldn't use them. They think, ooh, they must belong to somebody. But anyway, I saw a woman come in. She went up to the machine to put in money to get tokens. She's there to wash and dry her clothing. She's starting from the beginning. So I just kind of went up to her and just said, hey, I did say in English, I have some extra tokens. I don't need them. Here, you can have them. But of course, she thought I was trying to sell them to her. And to me, that makes sense. I paid 4 ringgit for 4 tokens. She's going to buy 4 tokens. We can just bypass the middleman. You give me 4 ringgit, I give you 4 tokens. But to me, that seems a little bit rude. Not rude, it feels a little bit unnecessary because again, now I'm asking her, a stranger, to trust me that these are genuine tokens. Like, oh, give me 4 ringgit, I give you 4 tokens. How does she know I'm not scamming her and I'm giving her things that won't even work? So I'm asking her to trust me, and that should come with a little bit of a discount, right? I should say to her, okay, listen, 3 ringgit, I give you 4 tokens. Hey, that's a deal, right? But now, like, we're getting into a very strange world here with the language barrier and all of that. So all I wanted to do was give somebody my extra tokens. And if we both spoke the same language and we were all in Canada, it would be a very simple matter. It's like, oh, hey, buddy, you want some tokens? And he'll go, oh, yeah, I could. Here you go. And then you walk away. You both understand you're just giving that person the tokens because you had extra. I got some extras. I don't need them. You want them? Okay, here you are. You're done. But in another country, cultural barrier, language barrier, these things aren't so simple, which is why I often hesitate to do these things. But in this case, I thought, okay, let's do it. And I went up to her and said, hey, I've got some extra tokens. Here, you can have them. But then she was looking at me and then thinking, and she didn't speak English, and then she's digging around in her purse or her bag, and she's getting out her wallet, and it was obviously she was looking for money to give to me. And then I stopped her and said, no, I'm not trying to sell them to you. These are just extras. I have no use for them. Here, you can have them. I have no use for them. And then she found that really like, what do you? She couldn't understand what I was doing or what I was saying anymore, because me giving her tokens for free didn't make any sense to her. It's like, why would you do that? I'm like, well, I do it because I'm a dummy and it's simpler. Everything in my life I want to be simpler and easier. That's my motto, simple and easy. And I just want to get rid of these things. And here, just take them. And I just went, no. Using body language, no, you don't have to pay me. And then she was far too grateful. Again, maybe that's kind of a cultural difference where, yeah, you do it to some other guy in Canada. Hey, want some extra tokens? Yeah, I'll take them. Here you are. You're done. He might say, oh, thanks, bud. But this woman, dealing with me, I guess, as a foreigner, now she's like thanking me profusely. And it's like, oh, sir, thank you, sir, thank you. And it's too much. I'm like, it's no. I don't need the thanks. And even that was kind of weird for me, because now, like, I'm thinking maybe now I'm embarrassing her. Like, I looked at her and I thought, ooh, she must be poor, so I will help her by giving her extra tokens. I'm doing something nice for this poor woman. And again, that's not how I'm approaching it either. I don't know, for all I know, she's a millionaire and she just likes laundromats. I don't know. I'm not making, she looked perfectly normal to me. She didn't look homeless or anything. She was just a normal woman, and I wanted to give her some tokens. But now she was thanking me so profusely, it was embarrassing for me. It's like, no. You don't have to thank me like that. And then things got worse, because when I was finally done with all my laundry, I folded everything up. And again, I couldn't help myself. I cleaned the laundromat too, because all those people that came in before me that used all the soap and everything, their bags were empty, their laundry bags and things, and they just threw them on the floor. And the garbage can was right there. And I always find that kind of an awkward situation too, because I noticed all the garbage on the floor, and now I'm walking out of the laundromat, and the owner that could be there, and it's for all he knows, I could have been the one who threw the garbage on the floor. So I feel like I should clean up before I go. And I do that in public bathrooms all the time too, because you go in there and the place can be a mess. You didn't make the mess. You're just using the facilities. But now if you walk out, the next person who goes in, they see the mess, they think you did it. They blame you because you're the last person to leave. So in public bathrooms too, I'm happy in Asia because they always have the little water hose. So I can use, well, the toilet won't have been, this I don't understand either. People who don't flush public toilets, what are you thinking? What is in your brain that you would do that, leaving a giant evidence of your existence in the bowl, and you don't hit the flush button? How hard is it? push the button, but so many people don't. I don't understand. Anyway, the first thing you do when you go in there is like, ooh, you got to flush the toilet, and then there's just stuff everywhere. And I'll take the hose and I'm hosing everything down. I'm cleaning. There's stuff on the floor. Anyway, I clean the public toilet, and then in the laundromat, I cleaned everything up too, all the garbage on the floor. It's not a big deal, like 5 pieces of big garbage. I picked up all 5 of them and then I threw them in the garbage can, which is right there anyway. It's not a big deal. So anyway, I cleaned that place up. And then I'm leaving and I'm walking by the woman that I gave the tokens to. And as I'm leaving, she thanks me again. You know, sir, thank you so much, sir. And I'm it's too much. Like my simple and easy, hey, anybody want extra tokens? Here, oh, okay, here you go, take them. Turned into this long social interaction, which I didn't want or need. And then I made it even worse because I'm leaving after this woman thanked me again. And then I remembered, oh, I have 2 more tokens. The 2 that I kept in reserve. I gave her 4, my extra ones, but I kept 2. And then I thought, what am I going to do with these? Throw them in the garbage? So I turned around and went, oh, actually, I have 2 I forgot about. And I went back to the woman and said, because she still has to dry her clothing. She's only at the washing stage. Maybe she needs more tokens. So I said, oh, I got 2 more? Here? And then she has to thank me and thank me and thank me all over again. So that was my funny human interaction at the laundromat. All I needed to do was just wash a couple of t-shirts, but it turned into a sociological experiment in human nature. But yeah, people overload those machines, man. I don't know why they do it, but anyway. That is the story of my laundromat experience. For the pop culture segment, I have only one show that I wanted to mention. It's the one I'm watching right now, and I'm enjoying it very much. Highly recommended. I have notes open just to get it. I have Wikipedia open for this particular show because I did not make any notes. The Day of the Jackal. So it's a 2024 British show, spy thriller, of course. And I know the story very well because I read the book. The novel is by Frederick Forsyth and came out in 1973, Day of the Jackal. There's a whole lot, there's an entire world of these spy stories, tens of thousands of these books. But I remember this one, Day of the Jackal, it made a big impression on people. It was a very popular book, and I remember reading it. And there was a movie made, oh, hold it. Yeah, I think maybe when was the book written? I think I got the date wrong, which is why I have 1971. So the book came out in 1971 by Frederick Forsyth, and then they made a movie about it in 1973, and I've watched the 1973 movie as well. And now we come to the modern day, and we have a TV series, British one, and stars Eddie Redmayne, who's kind of an interesting dude, Eddie Redmayne. I know him best from those Harry Potter spin-off movies. For my money, they're terrible. I think he plays a character called Scoot Menager, or a dumbest name ever created for a book or a movie. And so there's like this side character from the Harry Potter universe who knows a lot about magical animals. I guess there was a book about magical animals, and all the characters in the Harry Potter world would study this book in school or something. And then they made a spin-off series of movies or TV shows about this guy. I think they were movies. I've watched them all, but they're like in one eye, out the other. Not very good. Kind of pointless, to be honest. But anyway, I remember the character who played Scoot Menager. I have to look up his name now because that is not what it is. I found it all. Yeah, the Fantastic Beasts series. So there's 3 of them. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. I mean, if you watched all three of those and you enjoyed them, well, hats off to you. I found them to be a bit of a grind, just like a slog to get through them. They didn't really have a driving plot that kept me interesting, but I watched all three of them. And the main character, Newt Scamander. So Newt Scamander is the guy who wrote the book, and he's got a miniature world in a suitcase that expands into an entire multiverse filled with magical animals. Anyway, Newt Scamander, dumbest name ever, is played by Eddie Redmayne. And I think that's where I know him from. That's where I first saw him. And I was really impressed with him, Eddie Redmayne, the character. He had something unusual going on. His look, his mannerisms, good actor. And the first thing I thought of when I saw him was, that is a guy who's meant for the stage, not for movies per se. And then I did a bit of reading about him, and that's where he became famous, as a stage actor. And he was, I think he'd be very good on stage, a very convincing actor. And then he moved into movies. And I do wonder what it's like for him. I'd love to hear his thoughts about that, about moving from the stage to a movie theater, especially the magical beasts, because that's like 99% CGI. So he goes from acting on stage in a 100% real environment to suddenly just standing in front of a green screen and speaking into a giant camera. So he's got nothing to play off. He's living in a fantasy world of CGI monsters, and he never ever gets to interact with them or people or anything. He just stands in front of a green screen the entire time. So I wonder for him what it's like to go from the world of stage to movie theaters, or to movies, because even if he's doing something like The Day of the Jackal, which is not CGI based, we're still talking about a big budget production where they've got hundreds of people, probably elaborate sets, stunt work, and shooting the same scene over and over and over and over. Whereas, so like one scene is not connected to the other scenes. He's probably like, he sits there for 3 hours waiting, doing makeup, doing this, waiting, and then the camera turns on and they say action, and he says one sentence, and then the director goes cut, and then they do that one sentence over and over again, and then 3 hours later they're ready for the next sentence. That's what shooting a movie is like these days. And yet on a play, you tell the entire story in one go. I'm always thinking it's got to be a lot more satisfying to the actor, to the human being. I would much rather go out on stage and tell a full story from beginning to end, and then you just act for 2 hours in a play, and there's your audience, and here's your fellow actors, and you tell the whole story in one go, rather than taking 6 months on a Hollywood stage, or in this case in the UK, delivering the story one word or one line at a time. And you never, how do you get into character? So that I find that very admirable. When I was living in Taiwan, I was working there for a company, and we wrote scripts. I wrote a lot of scripts for teaching English, very simple little stories, and then they would film them. So we actually had a film crew in my company, and then they would hire foreigners like me who speak English to perform these little plays. And sometimes they'd ask me to fill in because they had a scheduling problem. They couldn't find anyone else. They, oh, Doug, we need you to come in and say a couple of lines. And you'd think, considering how much I like to talk, I would be good at it. But I was terrible at it because you get so tense, because this was a very small production, but even for that small production, it takes them a long time to get set up with the cameras and the set and the microphones, and then you're sitting there and you're getting hot. I'm sweating, I'm getting hot, and then they got this camera right in your face, and then they say, okay, say your line, and then you have to somehow say, oh, I'd like these jeans, but do you have them in an extra large? I mean, that's my whole line, right? And you're saying it in isolation, where you go from zero and now you're supposed to be in character. and I was just terrible at it. And you watch that video later on and you're like, boo, boo, terrible actor, get him off the stage. So I really admire modern actors, like somebody like Eddie Redmayne. They just have this thing. They have this magical quality where you can put them in an artificial setting, put a camera 6 inches away from their face, and then you say action, and they deliver one line, and it's 100% believable. Like when you watch the TV show, it's perfect. You completely believe this character, what they're doing, and then the scene happens flawlessly. And I'm like, it's like a miracle that they managed to pull that off. But anyway, I do wonder from Eddie Redmayne's point of view, how does that feel? Because I feel like I could do a play. Like if you gave me a script, cast me in a play on stage, then I would be more believable. I think I could do that and come across as believable. But I need the whole story. I need to be in the middle of the story. I need to have a person that I'm talking to. And then in the play, I could have a conversation, and then the people in the audience would go, oh yeah, that's kind of believable. I believe Doug was that person for those 2 hours. But in a movie, action. Oh, do you have that in a large? And I'm thinking about how do I say that? And I look so awkward and so unnatural. And he's like, boo. But Eddie Redmayne, all the big movie actors from today, I think that's the one skill they have. That I don't think you can even learn it. You can't study it. You can't acquire it. You just have it. That when they aim the camera at your face and you speak, it just comes across naturally. You've got a presence that works for the camera. Anyway, I like Eddie Redmayne. He's an unusual looking guy for a movie star, for like a leading man. He doesn't have the leading, you wouldn't look at him and go, wow, that is he's not a Brad Pitt. He's not any of these like people you think of as leading men. But yeah, he's a good looking guy, but he's a good looking guy in a different way. He's got a look about him, thin lipped, maybe red hair, like a red sort of, I don't know. He's not normal for a leading man role, but he's totally believable. And I love him in this series, A Day of the Jackal. I'm only a few episodes into it, enjoying it very much. My one problem with the series at the moment is I remember from the book that it's a story of an assassin. I'm not giving anything away. That's the whole thing is about an assassin. Watch the trailer, you know. And he's supposed to be the best, like an unstoppable assassin. And they're trying to catch him before he kills again. So they're trying to, he's supposed to be like a Jason Bourne sort of character. But when you watch a Jason Bourne movie, Jason Bourne is an unstoppable killing machine. He's perfect in everything he does. But in Day of the Jackal, he screws up all the time. He makes a lot of mistakes. And every time, like in the show, and I don't remember that from the book. I remember him being kind of a perfect assassin. But I guess to make the TV show more exciting, as he's doing things, setting up to kill this person, he's planning the thing in advance, and he keeps getting in trouble. He does like the dumbest things that a doofus would do. And I'm like, so now I don't really believe he's such a skilled assassin anymore. He just feels like a normal assassin who just happens to be a really good shot with a rifle. But anyway, it just seems kind of weird. It feels like the appeal of the character is supposed to be how he's like a machine. He's perfect in everything he does. And then the British Secret Service, the MI6 people, or whoever they are in this show, they have to catch him. And it's really hard to catch him because he's such a professional. And yet in the show, he keeps screwing up. Feels like, man, it'd be pretty darn easy to catch this guy. Anyway, I do have that problem with the show, but I am enjoying it. And I did want to say just one last thing. The other star of the show is, what is her name? I have her Wikipedia page up here somewhere. I think her name is Natasha Lyman. There it is. Lashana Lynch British actor. She is the one trying to catch the Jackal, her character. She's good as an actor. I'm totally into her as a person, the person she's playing. And I had this feeling, as I often talk about when I was watching her, like, I know this actress. I've seen her before and I liked her, but I couldn't come up with anything. And I'm looking through her filmography, and she did play Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel and in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I remember her as Maria Rambeau, but I didn't think very much of those movies, and I don't remember the Maria Rambeau character really making an impression on me. So I had this feeling like I've seen her somewhere else. She was also in The Marvels, but I haven't seen that movie, The Marvels. And I went through all the TV shows, and I know some of them, but I don't think it, so I don't know where I know her from. I'm still thinking, but Lashana Lynch. Yeah, she's very good in Day of the Jackal. I love her characters. I love the world that she inhabits, and I'm enjoying it very much. Spy thriller, an assassin trying to kill somebody, and the good guys are trying to catch the assassin. And it's really well done. Cinematography, acting, probably the music, though I don't really notice the music. It's probably there, and it's probably good. I think the best music is music you don't notice, because the music creates the mood, and if you don't actually notice the music, it's doing its job properly. Anyway, yeah, Day of the Jackal. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And that is it for the Planet Doug podcast for whatever day it is today, February 24th, I believe, 2025. As always, I talked for a lot longer than I planned. I was just going to whip this together in an hour, have a couple of cups of coffee, and then start editing the video from Bukit Dinding. But I think I've been talking for 2.5 hours or something like that. But it is what I do in these podcasts, apparently. So yeah, but I've come to the end of the stories I wanted to tell, and I'm shutting down for now. And I'll put in a little pitch here for the Planet Doug Patreon, because one thing the Planet Doug Patreon can do for you as a viewer is, assuming I keep up with everything and I do it properly, it's the one place you can go where everything is in one place, because I post Planet Doug videos to Planet Doug, but I post Planet Doug podcasts and bonus videos and behind the scenes videos. They all get posted to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes. That's a different YouTube channel. And I post videos to 360 videos, and I have another channel for that, Planet Doug 360. But all of those videos get pulled together onto the Planet Doug Patreon. So, assuming again that I'm staying organized, you can join as a free member if you wish on the Planet Doug Patreon, and then you can click on the collections. And then at the very top of the collections, I will have Planet Doug Behind the Scenes, and I'm just thinking now maybe I should take the Planet Doug 360 collection, move it up there as well. So all the Planet Doug YouTube channels will be at the very top, and you can click on that, and it opens up a list of all the main Planet Doug videos, all the main Planet Doug podcast videos, etc. So everything is being collected into one place rather than being on different YouTube channels. So that's one advantage if you go to the Planet Doug Patreon. Everything is being collected together there. And the other advantage, of course, is that I'm posting to the Patreon in real time. So yesterday when I was on my way to Bukit Dinding, Bukit Dinding? Dingden. I've forgotten already. It's a very weird name. But while I was on my way to the hiking trails, I got out my phone and I took a couple of pictures. Then I posted to Patreon. Hey, everybody, good morning. I'm on my way to this hiking trail. And then I tell people what I'm doing that day. So everything is happening in real time. And that's another advantage to being a member of the Planet Doug Patreon. So I hope to see you there. Just join up. and that'll be great. Or, yeah, these podcasts are always there on Planet Doug behind the scenes, and if you're subscribed to that channel, you'll get notifications about them, things like that. So that's fine too. Whatever works for you is what I'm all about. All right, that's it. I am shutting down, and I will see you in the next video.